You're good, bud.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's Teddy Atlas and Teddy Atlas with the fight. We're here streaming the card from Saudi Arabia. We did the streaming last night of the three. I guess you could say it was obviously a historic event. Well, not historic fights. They weren't the greatest fights in the world, but the event was historic. It was outdoors at Times Square, New York City. And we did the streaming of that. And you guys asked us to come back and stream again. So you know what? We did. So we're streaming here live with the Canelo card. Right now, Munguia just introduced. He's fighting in the rematch against Surace. He lost, huge upset. The last time he was in the ring was Surace. I don't even know what the odds were, but they were big. And we're gonna start with that fight. With you guys watching that fight, my son Teddy Atlas the third, he's here with us. Hey, bud.
Hey, bud. I'm gonna join you guys in a second. I'm just gonna get squared away here.
So look, what are we looking for? Well, I'll tell you what we weren't looking for the first time. Nobody was. I mean, they would have been Nostradamus if they were. Nobody was looking for a win by Surace, much less a knockout win. He's now 26-0 and 2 draws with 5 knockouts. He had 4 knockouts. That means the first time he fought it against Munguia. So nobody was expecting him to win. He was a huge underdog, but even more so, nobody was expecting him to win by knockout. And you don't have to be a huge puncher to score a knockout, obviously. All you have to do is be a guy that can time somebody perfectly. And that's what he did. He timed him perfectly with a right hand. So what does this fight come down to for Munguia? What he has to do, right? No, not for me. What he has to not do. He has to make sure he doesn't make the same mistake. And then he knows that his trainer and him got together, looked at tape, and they understand. Don't be so sure fighters know why they get hit until they see it on tape, that he understands what happened and why. He threw the jab from too close. Yeah, the jab, you always hear me if you've been following me from ESPN for all those years doing Friday night fights and then the podcast and everything else. You always hear me say, look, the jab is the greatest weapon in the game, right? But it's the most dangerous weapon in the wrong hands. If you throw the jab from the wrong distance, the wrong angle, the wrong speed, the wrong time, you leave a window open for the enemy, the worst enemy of the jab, the counter right hand. And that's exactly what Munguia did. The first time he threw a jab coming in from a little too close, gave up his range, and he got into counter-punching range of Surace. And Surace timed him beautifully with a right hand over the jab where he never saw it. Kind of like, I know it was the phantom punch, but a little bit like Ali would listen in the second fight when listened to the jab and that quick right hand came over. A lot of people think it never landed, but I think it did land. Anyway, that's what this is going to come down. Munguia, yeah, he needs the jab, but he needs the jab at the right distance, and he needs to go to the body and take the legs away from the boxer, the counterpuncher, Surace. And Surace is showing you what he likes to do. Control the outside, use his legs, mix up punches, keep you off balance. And again, use your jab. Use the jab. So both need the jab. Surace needs it to keep the bigger man from walking right in and to set up other punches. And Munguia needs it to walk in appropriately at the right distance, safely, by jabbing and keeping him defensive on the way in, where Surace can't counter him, can't power shot him. So right now, Munguia doing what he did the first time, what you would expect, until things went wrong. He's the bigger guy, he's the stronger guy. He's trying to push Surace back, trying to push him back and go to the body. Take air out of the tires. So Surace can't be the quicker guy, can't be the mobile guy, can't be the boxer. Take his legs away. So that's what, look, that's what it's setting up for early. I'm already seeing an improvement in Surace. No shock. It's
Yeah.
called confidence. It's just called, you know what? I'm looking at him facially. He looks a little like Ryan Garcia. Just
Hmm.
a little bit. He looks a little
Yeah.
like Ryan Garcia.
The hair too.
Yeah.
What you just said wouldn't be a live stream without our boy Matt Borgeson joining us. And he just said what you said. He said he was talking about Bruno's jab, but he said, I don't think Surace is a fluke. He looks 30% better.
Yeah. Well, he got that from me, my man, Matt, because he heard me over the years always say that when a guy wins a title, and I don't know if it was formally a title, but whatever, it was a 10-round fight. But when a guy wins at that level, like a title level, they become 30% better. And they do. The old timers always told me that. Cus always told me that. And I've been saying it for the last many years now, where a lot of people pick up on that. But I find it to be usually dependable. And Surace, the reason he looks where he looks more confident is just he's standing his ground a little more. Yeah, he's moving, but he's set. He's moving with tiger claws, grabbing the floor as he moves. You know, not allowing Munguia to walk in too easily. He better stay off the ropes though, because that's where Munguia would like to pin him, so he could set up shop to the body. Uh, it's a funny thing. What did I say? I said Surace looks like Ryan Garcia. Talk about lookalikes tonight. The referee looks a little like Phil Simms, the great New York Giants quarterback who won the Super Bowl.
It means he's got some right hand on him, that ref.
Yeah, right, because that's right. He was a orthodox passer quarterback, and he had a
This
rifle
who
arm.
don't forget, this is the round in the first fight that he was dropped. Surace was dropped. Munguia scored the early knockdown the first go around, second round.
And that
Who'd
was
you give
part
that
of
first round to?
he gave it to McGee, I think, being a little more the boss. Close round. But I wasn't scoring. I was commentating. It's hard to do both or to do both well. But for me that this is gonna sound funny, maybe a little bit to some people, but what you just brought up, I'm glad you brought it up. In the second round in their first fight, Munguia dropped Surace, usually a good thing. I think that was the beginning of his downfall because he was a huge, huge, huge favorite. And when he dropped the guy, everybody's like, oh, yeah, it's going to be an easy night. You're a huge favorite for the reason that, it's going to be an easy night. And I think he's human like anyone else. And I think then he mentally let up a little. He lost his concentration a little bit. He took a little bit of the eye off the ball. And he just assumed things would go along the way they were scripted, so to speak, to go along. I'm the big favorite. I'm just going to get rid of this guy and then move on to bigger and better things. And that little bit of a mental hiccup, I think, cost him that fight because by letting up a little bit mentally, he was more prone to making a mistake, to getting careless.
No, that makes sense.
He's not going to
He's
get
got
careless tonight, though.
Yeah, looks like he's got Eddie Reynoso in his corner. Eddie Reynoso double duty tonight. We'll see him for the main event, obviously, with Canelo. Do you think that Bruno Surace little disrespected? He knocks out Munguia cold in the first go around. He comes into tonight's fight plus 600. Munguia minus 1100 favorite.
Yeah, no different than Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston was the huge favorite. You could say he would play the part of Munguia. Sonny Liston was the big favorite, 7-1 though, 7-1 at the time over Ali. Ali beats him the first fight. They fight the rematch, and Liston's a 7-1 favorite again. So it's not shocking at all because people were shocked that Liston lost the first fight. They still didn't believe in Ali. And so therefore the line was, even though Ali had won, the line was in favor of Liston, who lost in their first fight. Same thing here. Even though Munguia, lost, he was expected to win. He's the bigger, stronger man. He had much more experience. He obviously, the powers that be wanted him to win, where there was more upside with him winning for big fights out there. So no shock at all that, again, the people that make the lines are like, well, he's still the bigger guy. He's still the guy who's supposed to win. He's still the guy who has the big upside. And we're going to make him favored again. We think the first time was a mistake. We think the first time was, I hate to use the word lucky, but just something that he took his eye off the ball and he allowed a window of opportunity for an upset. The bookmakers are looking at this time like talent will prevail. They think McGee is talented. Talent will prevail, and he will not have that same mental hiccup he had the first time. But I'll tell you what they didn't equate into it is that 30% better that I talk about, that Surace is showing it. He's showing the confidence, not just to box and look for counter opportunities, but as I said earlier, to set his feet, and that could get him in trouble too, but to set his feet a little bit and stand his ground and fight McGee a little bit, not let McGee bully him, not let McGee have his way physically.
Let the fans know where you at right now. How much time? Round 3.
Yeah, I'm at 18 seconds, 17 seconds left.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a little behind you. I'm at right now 20 seconds. So just so the fans at home, if they want, they could stop and sync up to you. We are moving forward, guys. We're gonna up the production. We're gonna have the round, the clock, and some other stuff moving forward. I think this fight, kind of how I thought it'd play out. I thought coming off that first knockout loss of his career, Munguia, he would be a little more calculated, a little slower on, instead of maybe attacking like he's used to in fights past.
Yeah, you're right, bud. And you're right because you're respecting, you're paying attention and giving due respect really to the most important element of this game, of the sweet science of boxing. And that's the mental element. It's 75. You heard your father say it many times. And all the listeners out there that have been with us in the past have heard me say it, many, many times, that 75% of this game is mental. And, coming off a knockout loss, you're not going to mentally be in the same place you were, when you fought him before. When you fought him before you had been beaten by him. You're not going to, you're not going to be in the same place. You're going to have to get to that place. And I think that was that display last night in those fights that, were disappointing in action to people at Times Square. I think that's a perfect example that there were fighters in those fights last night that weren't in the mental places that they had been in the past. For example, Haney coming off the destructive loss to Garcia in the first fight, or in the fight, in his last fight. He wasn't able to perform the way that he used to perform. He wasn't mentally back in gear. He wasn't mentally whole again, back to where he was. And it showed. And Ryan Garcia, even though he won his last fight, with all the talk about pads and everything, you wonder if he wasn't clean the first time. I don't know. I have no proof of this, but I'm doing my job as a boxing guy, as as a commentator, as a journalist. If it's a big if, but if this time he was clean versus the last time not being clean, he didn't have that, extra boost of confidence, if you will, that maybe he had in the last fight. And without it, he was on his own a little bit. And therefore, he lacked a little bit of fire, a little bit of confidence. And he fought that way. I'm not saying that was the reason. I'm not saying at all. It may have been just the inactivity since his last fight, and with all the, with all the adversity that he felt like people were still doubting him. So therefore, there was still doubt with him. But he did fight with doubt. He did fight with a little bit of a lack of confidence. And Romero, on the other hand, coming off the losses and Pitbull, Cruz, and there's a good counterpunch by Surace. But coming off, and that's what he's looking for. That's his signature thing. That's his ID. That's his bread and butter. And he's looking to do it again. And you need someone to be aggressive to do it with. And Munguia is being aggressive, and he's setting the table for Surace to at least have a shot to counter him and a shot to do what he does best. End of the round there. Surace looks really sure of himself, and he's gesturing like he is making muscles, putting his hands up right there. But just to finish up on that, last night with Romero, Romero, he was coming off where he'd been stopped by Cruz, where he had lost really most of all his big fights. And so there was doubt. There was doubt from people out there. Can he fight at this level? And he was a huge dog. And there were doubts with him. Can I fight at this level? And it took him some rounds, to gain that confidence. And you can see him grow with confidence as he got better and as he did better and better as the rounds went on. And as he was allowed to gain confidence with Ryan Garcia not doing much. So again, I think last night it was that play, the mental end of it, the mental angle or dimension of this game was really, really at play last night. And it's at play here, to your point, with Munguia just, being a little more reserved and tentative that he normally would be. And some of it's good. He needs, obviously, to be more alert, where he doesn't leave himself open to a counterpunch. But at the same time, he wants to be able to really do the things that make him successful. And that's be aggressive, use his strength, go to the body, get inside, impose your physicality. If he can't do that, he's not Munguia. He's just not Munguia, because he's never going to be Pernell Whitaker.
Yeah, right now Munguia is minus 1,100, Surace plus 600.
Is that what it was earlier? Probably the same.
To start the fight, exactly the same. Yeah. This is Surace's second fight outside of his home country of France, the first one being versus Munguia in Mexico.
This is Saudi Arabia, of course. And the reason why they still have Munguia, as the favorite, I can see why. He's pushing the other man back, and they like that. Judges like it. Aggression. But I like boxing. I like the sweet science. I like the criterion of scoring for me is what it should be for pro boxing, what it's supposed to be. Who lands the harder, cleaner punches, the more telling punches, no matter how they do it. Whether they do it in the counter-punching fashion or they do it in the aggressive fashion. But right now, again, you see Munguia trying to be the boss, trying to push him back to the ropes, trying to get him stationary, and trying to attack the body. So he takes air out of those tires. If you take air out of the tires of Surace, he's a lot easier to deal with because he can't set up his counters with space anymore. He can't move and create room for you to make a mistake, so to speak. I think it's a chess match here in a lot of ways. And nobody wants to get, checkmate or checkmated. They're all being a little careful protecting their king.
I can't stop thinking about Ryan Garcia now every time I look at Bruno Surace.
Yeah, I'm sorry I brought that up. I distracted you.
I don't see the Phil Simms. I see the Ryan Garcia, though. Our man Matt was saying, just talking about Raleigh Romero, and I agree how much he's got out of his talent. George Kambosos, he used as an example of that as well. Munguia now minus 1,600, Surace plus 750. Vegas has Munguia separating himself a little bit after that round.
Yeah, it figures. Who did some of the listeners, some of the people out there just comment got a lot out of there or the most out of their talent? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, no. Our man Matt was saying George Kambosos had gotten over 110% out of his talent, but Raleigh Romero, with his performance last night, is another guy that's maximizing and
I
getting more out
agree
of his
with
talent.
Kambosos. I don't agree with the
Yeah, he's getting a lot of
comparison.
chances, Romero.
I don't agree with the example comparison of Romero because he had not come close to getting the most out of his talent up to last night. And I would argue he did better last night, but I don't know that he got everything you want him to get out of his talent last night at all. But I think he was better. But I think I have to put an asterisk with it because, see, I'm always going to try to be exact about it and not just jump in and say, oh, yeah, he gets the most out because he had a decent performance. But the reason I put an asterisk next to it, I give him all the credit in the world. He won the fight. He did what he had to do. And he validated the confidence that people had in him, even when he was losing. But the reason I put an asterisk next to it is because I don't know how much of it was what Raleigh did and how much of it was just what Garcia didn't do. And I think you have to calibrate it that way. You have to measure it, and judge it that way. That was it him getting the most out of his talent,
Ooh.
Or was it Garcia just giving him a free ride most of the night? And again, was it more what Garcia didn't do or what Raleigh did? But Raleigh did enough, obviously, to merit the win and to feel great about himself and to feel, to be in the position he's in now to move forward and get another big fight.
Yeah,
Maybe a
Munguia is
rematch.
starting to feel good about himself. Coming forward more, a little more aggressive, like I'm used to seeing him banging the body more.
Yeah, he's imposing he's trying to impose his will. But what he is doing so far, and it comes before the will sometimes, you impose your physicality. And then once you impose your physicality, that's kind of the delivery system for imposing your will. And that's kind of the game plan. And to do it smart, to do it without recklessness, without mistakes, and to do it, behind the jab, but a full extension jab, not a jab that can be counted because it's 3/4.
We need some action. I don't know what's in the water right now. All decisions last night. Obviously, very boring fights, all three of them. Martin Bakoli, we were watching the heavyweights before. I didn't expect that to go to the scorecards. I thought for sure that'd be a knockout. And this fight, much slower pace than maybe some expected.
Yeah. I wasn't as shocked by the Bakoli fight, and I'll tell you why. The physical dynamics and dimensions of the two fighters figured to me of the possibility of it going that way. That if Ajabi he's taller, he's longer, he's got better reach. If he and better legs, mobility, Bakoli only has legs to walk forward. And I just figured that if you kept it simple and you just went by the physical dimensions of the advantages that Ajaba had of length and legs, jab, that he could win the battle of geography, which I always talk about. The geography that suited him best, which would be on the outside, away from the power of Bakal, and in position to take care of, take advantage of the one dimension of Bakal and the slow-footedness of Bakal, his plotting of coming in slow and obviously, again, predictably. I just thought that with the physical advantages of Ajabi, if he was disciplined with his fight plan, he would be able to, he'd be able to stay away enough to pull off a win. It turned out to be obviously a draw, but
right.
I think he did do enough to, in his mind to win, but to give him a chance to win, to just stay away from the bigger, stronger, but slower Bakal. And Bakal, of course, the geography battle was for him to get close, which he did. But he didn't do it enough. Not to win, at least. When he did get close, he was able to do work. He was able to go to the body. He was able, to land with some big punches. I give credit to Ajabi for showing a good chin. He showed me he did. Bakal could really punch. He's big. He's 300 pounds, and he can bang. I think the thing missing with Bakali, and we'll talk about it on our podcast this week when we break down all these fights. But the thing that was missing with me for Bakali was he didn't go to the body enough to take the legs away. How could you not do that? I mean, there's a nice uppercut by Surace. How can you not go to the body when you know that the main weapon of the guy you're fighting, Ajabi, was going to be the legs to keep separation? But Surace just did a good job of countering with the uppercut a moment ago. And again, you see very clearly what the fight plans are, right? I mean, very clearly. And what the physicalities are, advantages, disadvantages, what each guy has as talent that they can use and the other guy can use. Surace, it's legs, it's mobility, it's eyes. He's got good eyes. He sees things coming. He's got a good IQ. He looks to take advantage of the aggression or hoping to get the reckless aggression of Munguia. And Munguia, he knows he's bigger. He knows he's stronger. He wants to impose that onto Surace. And I think he's been doing a pretty good job of it without getting careless. Here you see him doing what he needs to do in the replay here, but I saw good and I saw bad. Here's the good. He got him against the ropes. He went to the body when he covered up. Here's the bad. He's throwing wide punches.
Right. And, maybe one too many, too.
Yeah, maybe staying in the middle too long. Throwing those, instead of 3 or 4, he threw 5 or 6. That's a little too long. And sure enough, Surace had the right idea between those fat punches to try to punch with him at the end and catch him. And he just missed him. There's Joshua. There's Joshua, the heavyweight, very popular former champion from England. There's Crawford, who's got a huge fight got a huge interest in the main event tonight. With obviously watching Canelo, because he's got Canelo next on his dance card. Unless, of course, unless that gets screwed up, so to speak, by
I
the
was just gonna
opponent.
say he may be more nervous than Canelo is tonight.
Yeah, unless Skull throws a real wrinkle into.
Like Raleigh Romero did last night into Devin Haney's plans for his rematch versus Ryan Garcia. I do
Yeah,
think in this fight, Munguia, to me, I see more head movement than fights in the past. He definitely seems to be more defensive minded, more cautious even coming in. Was his one of the fans, Matt, commented, was his hands always up that high in fights
yeah,
before?
yeah. He always
Yeah,
kept his hands up good,
always. Yeah.
but here to your point, Bud, I see an improvement defensively, and here's where I see it. The last couple of fights, he was, he had the great fighter, former champion from Mexico. Uh, his name escapes me, but one of the iconic names from Mexico, great champion, training him for. Uh, you gotta help me,
Who,
but anyway,
what fight was that?
no, Munguia had training him. He had one of the former Mexican world champions from Mexico. One of the guys who was involved with great fights all
I
the
think it
time.
was Eric Morales,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Morales, that's who it was. And he had, I got to give Morales credit. He's not with Morales anymore, but Morales had him moving his head more. He didn't used to move his head. And everyone knew his defense was one of his weaknesses. So what did Morales do? He got him moving his head. The problem was he was moving him from too far away. You got to get close enough to draw the punch. If you move from too far away, you can get timed by your opponent as you come in. And that was part of what happened with Surace the first time. I think they realized that. They either heard me talk about it. I'm kidding, but maybe, who knows? Or they just watched tape and they said, hey, you're moving your head from too far away. No good. No good. You got to get closer. And when you move your head, it's got to be where you're close enough to make a miss and then close enough to throw something back. If you're too far away, like now he's moving his head a little too far away. If you're too far away moving your head, you're going to get pot shotted. You're out in space. You're not close enough to hit the guy. He knows that. And he knows that he can do that. He can take a shot and try to time you before you close the gap. He could be, he could be a little brave. He could be a little, confident, knowing that, hey, I can take a shot at this big guy before he gets close enough because he's exposing himself. He's telegraphing his head movement. I see an improvement with I would have to give credit to his trainer who's with him now. Canelo's trainer. I give him credit,
Yeah, Eddie
Reynoso.
Reynoso.
Yeah, that he has tightened that up in that one area, and he's moving his head into a more appropriate space now that he had been in the past. So I see Surace finishing around with some confidence though, where I think Surace is starting to get a little confident in his mind that he might be closer to getting what he wants, to get the timing. I think it would be on the right hand, but to get the timing on a punch, probably the right hand, and more important than the timing, or just as important, to get the opportunity, the space where maybe Munguia gives him a chance to counter him again by doing something, by either moving his head from too far, or throwing a jab from too close, where he just leaves an opening. I got the feeling that Surace, his radar, his eyes are searching for that and starting to think that he's going to get maybe one chance at that again, because he's not winning a decision with this fight plan. He's not, because he's getting outworked. He's getting outpointed. The way he's fighting right now is either going to have to capture all the late rounds or he's going to have to hurt Munguia again. And the problem with that is he's fighting like he's a puncher. And he's really not. I mean, I know that he kind of made a liar of that the last time. And that could be a problem for him, but where the last fight kind of made him think he's a puncher, made him forget what he is and what he's not. He's a boxer. He's a counterpuncher. He's a mover. He's a jabber. And that last fight, the success of it might make him say, "No, I'm a puncher." And he's fighting that way a little bit. And if he continues down that road, I think it's a road of his demise. Because at the end of the day, as great a knockout as that was, he's not a puncher. I'm not saying he can't hurt him again if he times it right. But for him to put all his eggs in that basket, for him to have his career as long as he's had it and fight like, and win fights by behaving like a boxer, and now suddenly thinking he's going to behave like a puncher and continue to have that same success, I think he's wrong. I just think he's wrong. Again, he might make me wrong by landing that perfectly timed punch that he's still looking for. But I think he would have gave himself a better chance if he would have came here just understanding his identity that he understood to get here. And then if the knockout comes, it comes. But to go from a boxer who creates counterpunches to a guy who now is trying to force knockouts, to me, it's not logical.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I think you just nailed it. And I was going to say, if it's not a time punch, you could feel why he only had
There's
four
a time
knockouts.
punch. That was a nice time right hand, but I don't think he caught him clean enough. Go ahead, bud. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was behind the head, that right hand.
That could hurt you. That could do bad damage. Behind the ear. There's Phil Sims again. I think he is. That could do damage behind the ear, behind the head. That could be hard to recover from. That could throw your equilibrium off, but it didn't seem to bother McGear.
Yeah, I was saying you could see exactly what you're saying. It has to be timing. The guy, there's a reason why he only had 4 knockouts going into that fight, right? I don't see the pop. You don't feel the pop on him. Going into that last round, Mannix had him only down 2 points, 2 rounds, I should say. But Vegas has Munguia up over minus 5,000 now. And then now it just doubled to minus 10,000. So they're saying no shot unless he gets the knockout for Surace.
Yeah. And what they're using, for fuel for their thought and for their reasoning, their line, is simple, right? It's 2 things. He's in control of the pace of the fight, the theme of the fight. He's the bigger guy. He's the favorite. He's being the aggressor. He's being the boss. Again, he's controlling the rhythm, the rhythm. There was a good right hand, a little bit of a right hand that could have affected McGee a little bit. But Vegas is just looking at the fact that McGee, he's in control of the theme of the fight, the momentum of the fight. And that Surace is, again, he's looking for spots and big shots and not doing a lot to really win rounds when he doesn't get his way. And McGee is doing everything to win the rounds. Everything. He's outworking a guy. He's pushing a guy back. I didn't like those wide punches inside. I know people will say that I'm crazy and that Surace is, Surace needs room to win this fight, needs distance away from the bigger guy to score with a counter, a perfect counter. But I'll tell you something. There's an opportunity for Surace on the inside when McGee throws like this. When McGee throws those wide, if I'm in the corner of Surace, I'm telling him, I know we probably trained, to try to keep it on the outside, but when he gets inside with you and he throws those wide shots and you're covered up defensively pretty well, look to throw a short shot inside one of those wide shots and see if you can hurt him. See if you can catch him a punch you don't see. Munguia is trying to tighten up the shots right now. Trying to tighten them up. And maybe Reynoso's telling him that. But every time Munguia opens up on the inside with those big shots, he leaves a little fat on those punches. You know, where Surace can punch inside. But right now, again, the momentum, the boss is Munguia. He just outworking, outpushing, winning the battle of geography. I think right now Surace is way behind. And the only way, I know Mannix has him close, but I think the fight's getting away from more and more as we go deeper.
Yeah, I agree.
The only way now that Surace pulls it off and catches up, or does what he has to do, is to catch what I've been saying, but even more definitively, to probably catch Munguia on the inside, doing in his territory. In other words, go in the lion's cage and kill the lion. Right where you're not supposed to do it. Right in the cage of the lion, right in the mouth of the lion, and catch the lion roaring. Catch the lion opening his mouth too big and throw right in between one of those wide shots. I think that might be his best shot right now for me. And I think he's got a chance to do that. If he doesn't get hurt to the body while looking to do it. Good head movement by Munguia. What you talked about, Bud.
Yeah, definitely much improved there. Buttoned up, tighter, defensively, just more technically sound. Had to, right? I mean, the longevity, he's not going to last fighting with the style he had. I mean, every fight was life or death. He was in a war. Derevchenko, Rosado, so many.
And not gonna last to survive it at the level that he now is going to fight every fight at.
And he's still only 28 years old. I forget that sometimes. He's been on the scene for quite some time since he won that 154-pound belt versus Saddam Ali.
No, you're right. You're right. He's been around a long time. See, that's where you got to be careful. That big right hand to the body. He got away with it, but there could be a kind of left hook waiting for him.
Right. Yeah, he's loading up a little bit. Even though he's getting aggressive, he's catching himself, right? To still back up. It's like in his mind a different man. Yeah.
And again, what's really missing, and he's going to be sorry if this fight finishes this way. I didn't expect him to back up Munguia. I didn't expect him to necessarily, outwork him or obviously outpower shot him. But I did look for Surace if he was going to have a chance to win again. Besides landing a perfect counterpunch, I did look for him to use the jab more. And he didn't. And the jab could have been used more, and it could have been effective. Because in the tiny spots he uses it, it sometimes lands for Munguia. And he just hasn't used it. And I think he's going to look back and he's going to kick himself in the backside a little bit that he didn't. Because really, he went in this fight looking to catch lightning in a bottle twice. And it's kind of hard to catch lightning in a bottle once. But it's almost impossible to catch it twice.
Yeah, and the way this is going, if Munguia does not get caught with something big in the last round, I don't need to see the trilogy.
No, me neither. The problem is, it seems to be the custom nowadays with the big fights on this level to make deals that are 2-fight deals instead of one.
Right.
But this was already the second fight, so you're right. We're past that. Well, there is no reason to make this a trilogy this fight did not come up to snuff, you know. What is this saying here? That's telling me something here. Switch between fights and rounds. I don't know.
That's no. That's yeah.
Yeah,
It's on my TV as well.
I could be dangerous, you know that.
Hey, you're good. That was good reflexes. Look at you. You're on your toes. You're ready.
I know I
Anything.
need a co-pilot. I could
I
crash
like
the plane
that.
fast.
You still got it.
Crash that plane fast.
What for you? I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys calling out Munguia as they always are, right? Big money fights, 168 pounds. Is there anybody in particular you love to see him in next? We got Caleb Plant, we got Christian Mbelli, we have Berlanga. Hamza Surace just moved up. We'll be fighting Berlanga.
I think some of those guys, they have a chance to outbox him on the outside. And in doing so, have to give themselves the best chance to win, have to make it a fight that's maybe not a sensational fight, if you follow what I'm saying. They have to box on the outside, take away his strength, which is physical strength, power, toughness, aggression. They have to box on the outside. And again, that might not be the fight fans want to see. So the fight that kind of ensures that it would be probably a great fight to watch would be Mbelli.
Yeah, I would love that.
The Mbelli fight would be a fight that I think would ensure that it would probably be a TV-friendly, fan-friendly fight.
I mean, Billy was supposed to be rumored to fight Pacheco, but that fell through. I was really looking forward to that one as well. The long, wiry Pacheco, trained by Benavidez' dad, Benavidez Sr.
Yeah. See, he's reaching a little bit.
Ooh.
He's reaching a little bit here, Munguia. He better be careful right down to the end that he doesn't throw something a little for granted, a little fat, or pull straight back from too close or too straight up. Which was part of what he did when he got knocked out. He jabbed, left his hand out, pulled back also from close, and got caught as he pulled back. He got timed perfectly. He better be careful he doesn't do any of those things in the last minute. You know, none of those things that could really, snatch victory out of the jaws, of defeat. Where he would pull back with his hands down like that, where Surace could follow him, or throw something, something wide in front that Surace could punch inside. Surace has 30 seconds to do that, but he can't do it if he doesn't get cooperation out. If he doesn't get help from Munguia right now from the form of reckless aggression, if he doesn't get that, then this fight, it's over. Give credit to Munguia. I don't think Surace gave himself the best chance to win by forgetting that he's a boxer a little bit, not using the jab more. But I think Munguia did what he had to do. He improved in certain areas. He didn't leave himself open as much. He tightened up his defense. He used the jab better. And at the same time, he was the old Munguia as far as being aggressive, bringing his physicality, all of that. But in better form, with better technique. It looks like Reynosa did a good job with him. And there you see some family members probably of Munguia. People forget how tough it is on a family watching, their family member, whether it's the husband or father, but whoever, watching them fight. That, you could see whoever that was, Munguia's family looked like was praying. I mean, again, we forget sometimes how hard it can be on the family to sit there and watch their loved ones go into, into such a dangerous place.
We forget that it's probably about what, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning now over there in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and they were prepared. And that's a good point to bring up to the audience, but because that's been part of the preparation, that it's not normally part of the training camp preparation. And that's, getting to Saudi early enough to acclimate and to start. That's what I was talking about, family member praying. I would assume that's a family member of McGee. And again, how we forget how difficult it is on them, because more difficult than the fight is because they can't control what's going on. The fighter can. So anyway, what I was saying is, yeah, they had to change their training to train early in the morning to get acclimated to be ready for fighting at this time.
They both scored the same, 117 to 111, all in favor of your winner by unanimous decision.
I just got booted out during the scorecards being read here.
Yeah, it was.
Is your TV working?
Yeah, pretty big. Like
no, I heard the cards. My TV is out. I have no TV now.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry, bud. You'll get back. Either way, I'm not booting you out. They might boot you, but I'm not. You're with me. You're in.
In just a moment, we're going to hear from Munguia, who is now standing by for Cosmetics. Congratulations. Big smile and a fist pump after you heard that decision announced. How'd you feel about that performance?
No, la verdad es que me siento muy contento. La verdad que pues fue una muy buena pelea. Tuvimos un gran rival enfrente. Y pues espero que haya sido una buena pelea para el público.
So I think it was a great fight. We had a really good opponent in front of us tonight, and I hope the fans really enjoyed the fight we put on the ring tonight. That was a shocking defeat.
All right, I'm back. I'm probably a little further behind now again, but
right now, on my set, bud, Chris Mannix is interviewing Munguia in the ring.
Yeah, that doesn't help too much. Same here.
Munguia is sweating. Does that help?
He's wearing a red shirt.
He's wearing a red shirt.
Oh, yeah, I just saw the sweat come down. Yeah, 8 seconds behind you.
You're sharp, bud. I knew that's all you would need. I knew you would. I knew you wouldn't. You wouldn't need more than that. You're like Sherlock Holmes. You only give him a little clue, and he figures out the whole picture.
We'll open it up while we wait. The next fight's going to be Badu Jack, 41 years old. I think he's been the cruiserweight champ at Recess. Going to be defending his cruiserweight title coming up. And then the main event after that, Canelo Alvarez, William Skull. After the Jack fight, we'll hear from you. Thoughts, preview more on Canelo. But I just want to open it up, throw some questions at you, see if the fans in between have anything. So
say hello to the fans. How they doing? They with us?
Yeah, they're saying hello back to you. Stuart Wakeman said, tell Teddy hello.
I'm glad to have them here. We're glad that that they're watching with us. Again, I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. that, it's been a few years since I've been in this seat again on a regular basis, calling fights, breaking fights down, doing the color commentating. And what makes it, the only thing that makes it worthwhile is to have fans, passionate and smart fans, make it better. But just to have fans to do it with. So I'm glad the fans are there. I hope they're enjoying it. I enjoy being back with you, back in this seat. And I enjoy having my son partner with me to be able to do something that, has been a big part of my life in the commentating role.
Yeah. Let's try to hit a couple. I'll throw some at you. We'll try to hit some of these quick so we could go through a few. You were talking about the family during the fight and the praying. I think Nate Clinton has an interesting, good question, which you mentioned in that. He's asking, what type of toll does it take on the trainer? I could answer that because I know what it takes, but let them hear it from you to that question of Nate Clinton.
Oh, it's one of the reasons why I don't train fighters anymore. It got to the point, quite frankly, where in camp, as much as I understood the privilege and of having that responsibility and having that opportunity to train a fighter in a fight and big fights and everything else with it, I always appreciated having that. But it became a burden. It became, I'm not complaining about being privileged and being able to do something that I love and something that's a lot easier than what a lot of other people have to do for a living. Never mistake that. I understand how fortunate I was to be able to be in a position to be in camp, training a fighter, getting ready for a big fight. But the pressure I felt personally, the burden I felt about just not wanting to let the fighter down and my family down. I felt it every day. I felt it every day when I got up in the morning before we went to the gym. I felt it every day when I went to bed at night, thinking about the next day. Did I do everything right? Did I, do I have this guy ready mentally and physically and technically? Am I gonna betray the trust of this fighter? That was always on the forefront of my mind, and I wish I could have controlled it better, maybe. And I'm not complaining. I'm not crying about anything. I'm just being honest that I felt it. I felt it every day in camp, and it was a heavy thing to feel, and I didn't want to let my family down. I didn't want to see my family crying at the end of the night, which I've seen. I mean, how could I ever forget the George Foreman night with Michael Mora? I didn't want to see my children and my wife and my friends, my family, the people that love me and that I love. I didn't want to see them. I didn't want to see them hurt that way. Even though they understood the territory and they understood what I signed up for, what they signed up for, it still was something that I felt.
Yeah, and I to that point, we're talking about the family member there ringside. It's just not tonight. It's the whole 8 weeks of training camp that they're with you and feeling it, the family, as well as obviously the trainer. Next question, Casey's asking, greatest light heavyweight for you of all time?
Well, a lot of people, I don't know if they realize how great a light heavyweight, because he won the heavyweight title, smaller fighters back then. But I don't know if a lot of people realize how great a light heavyweight Ezra Charles was. Michael Spinks was a great light heavyweight. Doesn't get enough credit. Great puncher, too. Bob Foster, great light heavyweight. Archie Moore, my God, 300 fights, 140. I think the old Mongols, I think something like 140 knockouts, more knockouts than anyone else in the history of this great sport. The old Mongols. I mean, those are a couple of them. I might put Ezra Charles number one, but those are some pretty damn good ones.
Yeah, 132 knockouts. Not too shabby.
No,
Our man Matt's asking, how big of an upset would it be if Skull wins tonight and upsets Canelo?
huge. It would be along the lines of Buster Douglas Tyson, because Canelo is now as big as as Tyson was the face of boxing back then. I guess you could say, to a certain extent, but Canelo is too, and so with the enormity of the name of Canelo losing, not only losing because of him being who he is and the biggest name in boxing right now, and losing to an unheralded guy that nobody gives much of a chance to, even though everyone has a chance. But on the eve of a fight that is looked for as a huge fight against Crawford, another pound for pound great that people are looking forward. Just the mystery of that fight. Can a smaller man beat the bigger man? So for Skull to win tonight and erase the plans of all that would be, like I said, that would be Buster Douglas like.
Yeah, Ruiz versus Joshua, that'd be up there for sure. Next question, go back, Bruno Surace. Who would you like to see Bruno Surace fight next? Is there anybody off the top of your head? One of the fans threw out, how about Diego Pacheco versus Surace?
I don't think, no, because I don't think he would ever get close enough, other than when the referee makes them touch gloves before the fight starts. I don't know if he'd ever get close enough to make it an interesting fight with Pacheco. I just don't know if he could do that. He might be more interesting. I'd rather see him with a aggressive fighter. Like Munguia was the first time he pulled off the upset with an Billy. People say he's too strong for Surace. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Surace's experience, he's good defensively. He would get opportunities to do what he does, which is pick spots and counterpunch. He would get opportunities against a Billy. He would get opportunities against the aggressive fighters in that division. That's what I would want.
Yeah. Next question, Gentleman Life asking, what's Petty's favorite period of boxing?
Well, my favorite period, as far as what I saw and I lived through, was without doubt the 80s. I mean, the end of the 70s, the 80s, where you had network television putting on great fights. First of all, during that era, you had some of the greatest fighters of any era. I mean, you had that kind of talent. You had those kind of special fighters that you don't get too often. You had the Sugar Ray Leonards, the Tommy Hearns, the Roberto Durans, the Pernell Whitakers, the Marvin Haglers. You had, and there's more. I don't mean to leave anyone out, but you had all these Wilfred Benitez. I mean, you had all these great fighters around, and you had really the triple dimension to go with it. You had the network TV, free TV to have them on Saturday, Sunday afternoons to put them in your living room when it was still on free TV back then. It wasn't pay-per-view and cable only. And you had those great talents fighting each other. So I can't. That was an unbelievable era. Unbelievable. Other than that, you go back in the history books, which I do, out of respect for the sport, and out of having the privilege with Cus D'Amato for all those years, where I could look at the fight films from some of the older fighters from the 40s and the 50s and 30s, back in the 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s. Wow, what an era that was. The golden age, you might call it. That was an unbelievable era because you had fighters with 200 fights, Sugar Ray Robinson, people like that, with 200 fights, Willie Pep. You had all these fighters fighting nothing but good fights, nothing but good fighters, nothing but the top fighters, and fighting them regular, fighting them often, fighting them all the time. You had activity every week with top guys, not afraid to fight anybody, not afraid to get a loss. It wasn't like back now with the TV. If you get a loss, it's a death sentence to some people. They say, oh, no, we can't get a loss on our way up because then we might not get on network TV or we might not get on cable. We might not get on, on prime time. We might not, you want to have a perfect record. And what that does to the detriment of the sport and the detriment of the fighter, it doesn't allow them to be put in fights that they need to be put in to become better fighters because you're afraid of blemishing their record. Back in those days, they weren't afraid of that. They put them in the fights to make them better, and they became better.
Yeah. Next question, bud. Spicy Pickle. He's asking about one of your favorite prospects in boxing, Abdullah Mason, signed with Top Rank, only 21 years old. Talked about him as a prospect of the year last year. He's asking, should he step up in competition or should they continue to move him along the way they have and gain ring experience?
Yeah, I think they've done a good job. And Top Rank, I got to give them their due. They do a good job developing their guys for the most part. They do. The thing with them, I think he got dropped so that they're not going. So you can't say, oh, go faster because you already got dropped in a fight. So they already put him in with a guy good enough to drop him, a guy who's not chopped liver, a guy that was a development fight, a guy that wasn't bad, pretty good. So give them credit. So I think they're doing a good job at the speed they're at, bringing him along, giving him the fights he needs to build, to build up, get his confidence, get rid of the kinks in his armor. If he makes mistakes, learn, correct them before you're in there with the better guys. So I think they're doing a good job with that. Having said that, I think they're at a point they can step up now because at the end of the day, once you get past a certain point with a prospect like this, once you get past a certain point of exposure, a certain point of experience, you got to remember, these are guys that had 200 amateur fights. These are guys who fought top opponents in the amateurs. So once you get that certain amount, and I think he got that certain amount of exposure and experience, then it's time, if you're going to get better, to step up. Otherwise, you're not going to get better. You're not going to necessarily improve. Once you get to that certain point with all those amateur fights, okay, now you know what? Now you can go. Now you can let them go a little more. And I think that they're ready to do that. I would think that they're just about ready, getting close to doing that for the reason I just said.
Yeah, and somebody's piggybacking, Matt's piggybacking off of that. For Abdullah, is it because of the expectation to be a world champion? Is that the proper plan to make sure you get there in a few years more in development?
Yeah, but you got to be careful with that plan. It's a double-edged sword. We've seen it. I've seen it. You've seen it. When I point it out, you're going to understand what I'm saying. There's two sides to that, again, to that coin. And one is, you want to get, you don't want to screw it up. You don't want to, hit a speed bump and screw the whole thing up and not get to that title fight. That's the plan, right? Get to the title fight. But the real plan has to be, when you get there, you're ready. So you got to balance those two. Yeah, don't screw it up. Don't not get there. But you want to be able to get there and be ready. The worst thing in the world to me is that you get there and then you're not ready to win when you get there because you might not get back. So you got to balance those two.
Got them coming to the ring now. Badu Jack. Most famous probably for the most gruesome cut I've ever seen in my life versus Marcus Brown. That was insane.
Yeah, it was. It was terrible. But give him credit. What a tough man. He fought through it. As handicapped as he was, blood streaming down his face from his forehead. He continued. He marched forward, and he continued that fight with a great handicap. Incredible.
People are asking, we have a lawyer Douglas asking if Crawford beats Canelo in September, where do you place him for all-time greats?
He gets a place. All-time greats in a sport that's been around this long, with this kind of history and depth. All-time greats. That's a heavy one. That's a heavy one. He wins that fight against Canelo. He cuts the line. He cuts a big line.
Like Mr. Usyk may have just did, beating
Yeah.
Fury twice in a row.
Very good. Good point. Very makes sense when you, yes.
Looks like the challenger here, Tubadu Jack, is trained by a Daniel Dubois trainer. See Don Charles in the corner there.
Yeah. Big motivator. Big motivator. You know, obviously understands the technical side. Had Dubois using the jab, closing the gaps, even counterpunching against Joshua in that huge win that huge win in that fight, knocking out Joshua. But he's also a guy who plays to the mental side of really jacking his fighter up, if you will, if you pardon the pun, where he gets his fighter up. He gets his fighter to really believe in himself as much as a trainer can help in that area.
Yeah, and I spoke with him in Saudi Arabia a few times now, and he's a big fan of yours, and said that he admires your motivational and looks to you in those ways. But what a gentleman he was. Just meeting him, get to know him a tiny bit, and he's having a hell of a year.
Yeah, he really is. And he deserves consideration. You know, the problem is he was in with tough competition because the guys that won the Trainer of the Year and that were up there for nomination all deserved it. But he deserves consideration moving forward with the job that he's done. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, of course, I thought Ring Magazine got it right. Robert Garcia getting Trainer of the Year, unbelievable job, unbelievable all the champs he's got. Andy Lee right up there, the job he's been doing, unbelievable. And with Joseph Parker and with other fighters that he has under his care, so a lot of good trainers out there that when the awards come back next year, there will be a lot to pick from.
Yeah, talking about trainers, Badu Jack's trainer, former heavyweight contender, Jonathan Banks, also former fighter for the Croc Gym there with Emmanuel Stewart.
Yeah, he had one of the great, you couldn't get a greater mentor, a greater teacher, to learn under if you want to be a trainer than Banks had. He trained under Emmanuel Stewart as a fighter, cruiserweight, and then he was he was mentored by Emmanuel, the late great Emmanuel Stewart. He was mentored by him, serving as an assistant to Emmanuel, and then later becoming, obviously, when Emmanuel passed, taking over the fighters that Emmanuel Klitschko, was the main one, but taking over the fighters that had been in the care of the great Emmanuel Stewart. So he's Again, he was the protege of Emmanuel Stewart.
While this fight's just going underway here, I'm going to throw one random one at you from JR90. He's asking if Cus D'Amato is alive today, which heavyweight do you think he would want to train? I think everybody would want to train Usyk, the ultimate winner. But is there anyone that stands out that would fit Cus's mindset, the mental, as well as the neon talents, maybe?
Yeah, and his style. You know, remember, Cus invented the peekaboo style with two things in mind: effectiveness and entertainment. He wanted to fight it, not, he figured, what's the sense of having a good fighter if they couldn't entertain, if they couldn't earn money? And you had to entertain to earn money. So he wanted to make fighters that were entertaining as well as effective and efficient. So that means he liked aggressive fighters that could have a tendency or a mindset or a temperament to be aggressive. Mike Tyson, of course, perfect. I mean, perfect guy for that style, that mindset, and that theory, that idea of making guys friendly for television, for the audience. So nowadays, he wanted heavyweights. He wanted heavyweights, but obviously, he had Floyd Patterson, he had Tyson. He would have looked for the most aggressive guys. I mean, in 168 pounds, he would have loved an Mbili. He would have loved an Mbili. Would have liked that guy. His temperament, his physicality, fitting that style. As far as the heavyweights, I'm trying to think.
I'm thinking of the style. I'm thinking of the temperament, and if not
maybe Torres, maybe the top ranks Torres, who's not there as far as talent and really development yet, but he was a silver medalist in the Olympics. He's short. He tries to be physical. He tries to be a puncher. He tries to be fan friendly. He tries to push guys back because he can't fight on. Yeah, he's not going to fight on the outside and win. He knows that he's got to be a little Tyson-like. Torres, like I said, the top-ranked prospect. So a guy like him, he would probably like to be able to help and nurture a little bit. That's one guy. Is there somebody else, Bud, that's catching your attention?
I was going to say, what if he got his hands on a guy like Derek Chisora early on in his career? Just a mindset, shorter guy, come forward.
Well, early in the
style,
career,
right?
Yeah, you didn't say that. You didn't say early. Now, early.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I thought that the guy was asking a question was somebody now. But you're right.
Well, yeah, it was. I'm just saying, as I'm listening to you, that
you're
seems
100%.
Like,
no, you picked the right guy.
And the other thing is, you've told me this before, and some of the viewers might not be aware of this. He'd probably pick a guy that was born in the right month, right?
Yeah, he believed in astrology to the point that, not to the point of the stars lining up and predicting things like that. He believed that certain people born in certain months under certain signs inherently carried similar characteristics, that could make for a better fighter or not a better fighter. Dependability, characteristics of, certain temperamental characteristics of nature and character. He felt that there was a consistency in that kind of area, and he did a little study with that. So he looked for certain guys in certain months. But he would have loved, that was a good pick on your part. He would have loved Chisora, but he would have loved his mindset. Yeah. He would have loved his physicality, his power.
And then anybody would love Dubois now, right?
He would have loved his style. He would have loved Chisora's style, his attack, his relentlessness. Yeah, he would have loved the physicality, the power of Dubois. He would have loved that, obviously. Who wouldn't?
It's funny talking about the astrology. He was born on the same day Cus was as Muhammad Ali, Alexander Usyk, and many, many other world champions. Marco Barrera. It's amazing how many were born on that same day.
January 17th.
That's right.
And I'll tell you another one who was a great one. Not in boxing, but a great man, a great leader, a great changer of the world. Martin Luther King.
January 17th?
I believe so.
I didn't know that.
I believe he was.
January 15th. Close. No, no cigar.
No cigar. Same qualities, though. Champion qualities. And that's all Cus looked for.
Adu Jack here looking like the more experienced guy as he is, obviously. I am
Yeah.
not familiar with his opponent here. It's my first exposure to him.
Mine too.
Yeah, Michele is 27-2. He's from Armenia. He's only got 12 KOs in his 27 wins.
He's got good size, good body.
Yeah.
Michele, and he's got to use it better. But he threw a good counter there, looking for the counter off the jab, over the jab of Badou Jack. If Badou's a little slow with recovering with that jab or throwing that jab, he might get time. Badou Jack is doing fine, but his legs look a little old going back to the corner. I always look for those kind of things with older fighters that have been in a lot of tough fights and they're in their 40s and they got a lot of miles on the odometer. I look for those telltale signs of are they getting a little worn? And the first thing I always look for is the legs. I don't know. I'm not saying that Michele's the kind of guy that's going to expose that in this fight, but to me, there's spots there where Badou Jack going back to his corner, his legs looked a little old. And look, once they look real bad, anyone could pick up on that. The key is to try to pick on it before it's that obvious. And I think I might see a little something, but it's up to Michele to fight like the younger guy and push the older guy where those older legs, start to show. Where they start to show. If you let him fight at his pace and his distance, then you're not gonna, again, you're not gonna expose what we're talking about. If you got an old car, I've said this before, I've used this analogy before. If you have an old car and you drive it, to the store and back, and on the back roads on Sundays, you're good. But you don't want to go on the highway with that old car. Then you might not be good. Then all of a sudden you might have a problem, with certain things. And to me, I approach the same thing with an older fighter. If you let him go at his pace and go out to the store and just drive on Sundays, he's going to use the experience you just talked about. He's going to have a chance to win. And you're giving him his best chance to win, that being Bojack champion, who's been around so long and been a champion. You're going to let him use the experience, the one thing that he still has at a high level. But if you take him on the highway, and you make the pace of that an older car doesn't want to be at, that a 42-year-old with miles on the odometer doesn't want to be pushed at, then you're going to start to see maybe some of the things that you look for in an older fighter. The legs start to get a little maybe unsteady. And the reflex is starting to betray him a little. But at this pace, with, Michele, great body again, great size, but he ain't using it. He's not in any way imposing his physicality or trying to on Bojack. He's like he's thinking, I'm going to be tall, I'm going to be long. Okay, I'm going to use the jab. I'm going to extend my punches. I'm going to get my battling done on the outside. That's fine. The only problem is if you do that, you're allowing the older guy to fight at a pace that he needs to fight at. A slower pace where, again, he can use his experience and maybe hide some things that you want to hide, like old legs. but he's not doing
Yeah.
a bad job, McCallion, as far as controlling the outside, getting off, picking spots. Although Bojack just counted nice there. Again, using that experience, Bojack. I like the way Bojack is either out of range or in range. Look at him. Like he gets out or he gets in range.
Yeah, this is Badu Jack's first fight since 2023, fought in February 26, 2023. So trying to knock off a little ring rust on top of being 41 years old here. You keep saying Bojack, it's Badu Jack, but since you're saying Bojack, no,
I'm sorry. I had a lot of respect. I had a lot of respect for Bojack. He was a lightweight champion way back in the 40s, 30s, 40s. He was a tough as they came, lightweight champion of the world back in the day when there was so many great fighters, so many like Ike Williams, just so many great fighters and great lightweights. He was what a tough man he was. And when I trained Cristiozzo and Simon Brown down in the old Fifth Street gym where Ali came out of, where Angelo Dundee had Ali, it doesn't exist anymore down in Miami. But when I trained those fighters down there, Bojack was there. And he was, he was there. He was older. He was training amateurs once in a while. And I got to be around him. I got to be fairly close to him. I got to talk to this great fighter on a daily basis. And so when I make the mistake of using his name, I think it's attached to the fondness that I have with him.
It makes sense. It makes sense. And when you say Bojack, and I remember the stories you told me about him winning all those Royal Rumbles, and they would fight blindfolded. But I also think about the story you said when you guys spent some time together, and Cus D'Amato made him. Cus D'Amato shined his shoes, right? He was shining shoes at the time, Bojack, and Cus said, "You sit down. I'm shining your shoes." Man, I wish there was a picture of that.
There was, and
Where is it? Where is it?
It's out there somewhere. I had it. I had it when I was up in Catskill. I had it. I don't know. I don't think I brought it with me, and I wish I had it. I wish I had it. I wish I did bring it with me. I wish I could find it again, but I'm sure it's out there. It's an iconic picture. It's a great picture of two great men, and it's a picture at the really famous the famous hotel down there. It was
the Fontainebleau.
The Fontainebleau. It was just it was a very famous hotel, a high-end, luxurious hotel. All the big shots went there, so to speak. And Cus was in town. I don't know if he was in town for Floyd Patterson. I'm not sure what it was, but Cus was in town. He was in Miami. And Bojack was shining shoes at the Fontainebleau. That's what he was doing, the former lightweight champion of the world. And Cus went to see him, knowing that he was there. And when Cus saw me, he did what you said. Bojack said, I'll shine your shoes, Mr. D'Amato. And Mr. D'Amato said, no, oh no, champ. Give me the pleasure of shining yours. And there was a picture of that. He put him in the chair.
Wow.
He made Bojack sit in the chair that the customer would sit in. And Cus went to work, shining the shoes of the tough former lightweight champion, Bojack.
So it's a great story. It's so sad also to think that he was in that position with what he went through and what he was, just like Joe Louis being the doorman at Caesar's Palace later on.
That's one of the reasons. But I'll tell you this. I got to say one thing straight. Yes and no. He didn't have money saved. He didn't make big money. They didn't make the money they do now, of course. And he didn't have big money, obviously saved and all that stuff. We know, okay. But the Fontainebleau is a prestigious place. And all I can tell you is this. Yeah, it was sad on one hand. The great fighter was trying to choose to make money, but he was happy. He was respected by everyone. Everyone knew who he was down there, and he was happy. And there's something to be said about that. He was happy. I know it was sad for us, but not for him. If you can understand that, bud, and I think you can, and I
Yeah.
think people can. And the other thing I'd say with that is that's why I fought for so many years and still do to get a national commission in boxing, where it's the only major sport that doesn't have a pension for the participants, for the athletes. Where if I ever got an hour, if I could ever get a national commission, one of the parts of the national commission would be to have a pension plan for fighters that had fought, a certain amount of years in the sport, had given a certain amount of their life, their blood to the sport, and would have something when they couldn't fight anymore to show for it, to help them.
We had a comment from Matt. He said he loved the fight with Bob Montgomery. Bojack was a talented fighter.
Yeah, Bob Montgomery was a great lightweight champion. Great lightweight champion. And in one of those fights, Bojack broke his leg, or I think he broke his leg or hurt his leg really bad. He got dropped and he hurt his leg and he kept fighting. He kept trying to fight with a broken leg or with a very injured leg. Montgomery, he beat Montgomery, but Montgomery beat him back. I think Montgomery beat him twice out of three. I'm not sure. But Montgomery was a great champion, a great fighter. And he told me about the Montgomery fight, Bojack. He said, Teddy, you know why I lost the Montgomery fight? I said, why? Why, Bojack? He said, well, because Montgomery, I was doing this. And he showed with his hands, he was throwing wide punches. That's what he did. He got in your chest and he punched. He used his physicality and his will. He said, I was throwing wide punches like this. And Mr. Montgomery was doing this. He was punching short and straight inside my wide punches. That's the way. That's all he had to say. He said it perfectly that way. That straight beats round. And he was throwing straight, I was throwing round.
We got some good fight fans here, some real fight fans with us. Berno said Bo beat Fritzy Civic, who beat Henry Homicide Hank Armstrong.
Armstrong, one of the greatest, my favorite fighter, one of the greatest fighters of all time, held 3 full weight classes in 2 months simultaneously, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, could have had the middleweight, he got robbed, against Severino Garcia, but, I mean, you beat Armstrong, Homicide Hank, I mean, you beat one of the greatest fighters of all time. And Zivic was one of the great welterweights. I mean, one of the great, physically strong, everything, but one of the great welterweights that fought everybody. Well, back then, they all fought everyone. There was great fighters around. That's why I think it was the greatest era. There was so many great fighters, and they were all fighting each other. Nowadays, they don't fight each other as much. And Fritzy Zivic also was probably, besides being a great welterweight, fighter, champion, he was probably considered maybe the dirtiest fighter of all time.
Yeah, you've told me that. I remember you telling me that. I think it was his nephew used to work for Everlast many years ago. I had met. Am I accurate on that? I think you were telling me the story then. Yeah.
I mean, the joke with him was the left hook was only half of the punch. The elbow was coming right behind it.
It could be a list one day, maybe the dirtiest fighters of all time. Be some names we never heard of, some tricks we've never seen. For me, Evander Holyfield's got to be up there.
I don't consider him dirty. I know that he
No,
got
you don't
involved
think
with
that head coming in and some? No,
because he was gonna take as good as he gave. He was an inside. He wanted to get inside. He was a warrior. you know, he got in there with his head. I don't think it was intentional. Maybe he moved it around a little bit, Billy Goat a little, but I don't think it was really intentional. He didn't have to do that. He was a warrior. He was a great fighter. He was a prideful fighter. You know, he was a fighter that fought fighters bigger than him and beat them. And right now, Bordeaux Jack is having good success because he's been allowed to fight at a pace that's been convenient for him. Bordeaux Jack has been allowed, using experience, really smart, you know, kept control range, kept pick spots, you know, again, kept the pace of the fight under control, and he got cooperation from his less experienced fighter, McCallion, where McCallion is just not, again, he's not pushed the older car on the highway. He has not forced the pace to really exploit the older men where he might be exploited, being old, having older legs. He hasn't exploited that. He's allowed the older man to do just what he would want to do. Have a slow-paced fight where he could use his experience picking spots. And I don't know what the fight plan is, and there's another right hand. But Joe Jack is finding good spots now for the right hand, timing the right hand with his experience. And with the lack of experience of Michael Indian, where he's timing his opponent as he throws the jab from too close, or he steps back with the left hand a little low. He's timing him with that right hand. He found something that works, and with his experience, he's going to stick with it until it's taken away. If it ain't broke, you don't fix it. And he's done some good scoring with that. And then look, I give credit to Noel.
There you go, McCallion.
McCallion. I give credit to McCallion where, you know, he's showing heart. You know, he's working. You know, but I just don't know that they had the perfect fight plan or strategy to use against a guy who's 42 and a champion and an experience. That's the right hand. He found the home with the right hand. And the reason he found it was the left hand is low of McCallion, and McCallion's laying his head on the right side. You don't lay your head on the right side. When you lay on the right side, you're in the lane of the right hand. You lay it on the left side. There's a great fighter, Bivol. You lay your head, you finish your head on the left side, outside the right hand. You finish it on the right side, you're going to get hit with right hands, especially if the left hand's low. And another reason I saw with that replay that Bordeaux Jack was able to land the right hand was that Noel led with the left hook in front. You lead with the left hook in front, you expose yourself to a straight right hand. It's that simple. And when you're doing it with an experienced guy like Bordeaux Jack, you better expect to pay a price. And Bordeaux Jack is really making hay with the mistakes of Noel. He's making hay with those mistakes right now, taking advantage. They got it a draw. It's a close fight. But I think that Bordeaux Jack's doing a great job of just taking advantage of those moments, keeping the pace under control, and taking advantage of the bigger, taller, younger, less experienced fighter not having particularly maybe a great fight plan of, you know, of really looking to keep the pace a little faster, you know, by being on the outside. Again, he's allowing Bordeaux Jack to fight at his pace, to press the fight, to be the boss, to take his time. He's not making him work that much. And he sees the punches coming. He can pick them off. He can block them. He's seeing everything come from Noel from a distance. The one thing I give Noel credit for, he is using his reach. He is using his, you know, he is fighting tall. He is fighting tall. But
nothing behind it, though, right?
Yeah, he's fighting tall, but to your point, he's not doing a lot behind the jab, and he's not fighting at the pace that you would want the younger guy to try to fight at to tire out the older guy, quite frankly, quite simply.
Right.
Again, you can see you don't need me to navigate to be your guide necessarily, even though I try to be your guide, but you can see it. You know, he's allowing Jack to take his time, come in at his own pace. You know, again, see the punches coming, step out, block them, come back with his jab. I mean, you couldn't ask for more if you're 42 years old. You really couldn't. Yeah, you got a bigger, younger guy, and he's inexperienced, and he's not using he's fighting inexperienced, and he's allowing you to fight the kind of fight that you need. Even now, Badou Jack's setting traps, setting counters, being able to rest on the inside. You know, you don't see Noel fighting on the inside. You don't see him using his size on the inside. You don't see him really working much. He did a little bit there. Close rounds. But I get a little edge to late rounds, a little edge to Badou Jack of just picking the spots and landing a little cleaner. Maybe not as busy as Noel, but a little bit more concise. And I think the jab of Badou Jack has served him pretty well to maybe grab some of these rounds that I'm seeing anyway. I don't know how the fans are seeing it. We've been talking about history. We've been answering questions to the fans during this fight, you know, which I think has been fun. I think it was the right time because it's not like a house on fire. So I think that it was well served to talk to the fans. It's kind of like being at the bar. You're at the bar, you're having fun, and you're talking boxing. I'm here at my home with my son, watching the fights with the fans at the bar, and we're talking boxing. There's no alcohol. Maybe the fans have alcohol, but that's fine. But we're talking boxing.
Not the fans at the fight there in Saudi.
No, they're not, because there's no alcohol out there. But you're right. Good point. That's why you're good at this. You're a good color analyst too. You pick up on the things that need to be pointed out. But again, we talking during the fight, having fun, talking to the fans, answering questions. Again, it's not a barn burner. I like to know what the fans. I got a question for the fans. I did what you asked me. I answered your question. I had conversation with you during the fight. With you and my son. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Who do you got winning this fight? Are you in line with me that Badou Jack's being allowed to fight at his pace, a pace that he needs at this point in his life? That Badou Jack's doing a good job picking his spots, landing some clean shots, winning rounds by doing that, and being maybe a little ahead in his fight? How do you guys see it, bud?
It seems like from some of the views, I think it's leaning towards Badou Jack, but we'll wait to see.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, and the main event coming up next, if you guys could help us out, you guys could just spread the word, let everybody know we're on. Help us that way as well.
And don't tell him I think that Canelo's going to dominate. Don't tell him. Don't tell him that. But it could be interesting. He's fighting a guy who never learned how to lose. But and you never know when Canelo's been around a long time. You never know when Father Time shows up. You never know.
Right hand by Badou.
Never know. Badou Jack, he's experienced. He's a champion. When he finds a home for something working, he's going to stay to it. And that home is what you just said, bud, the right hand.
Yeah, everybody's saying it's close. They're saying it's close, Teddy. Some think that maybe Badou is edging it out, but they see it, like you're saying, some close rounds.
All right, let me ask you this question. I think I agree with them. I think the other guy is staying busy enough, not with his clean or telling punches, but though Jack, but just with amounts of punches. He's keeping himself in it. Okay, fine, with the jab. Fine. Let me ask you the $1 million question, people. Okay? We're all family here. We're all here, right? We all love the sport, the same sport. Right? We understand there was a late punch a little bit by the experienced champion. But what do you think the chances of a man named Noel, what's his name, bud? McKillian?
Yes.
Noel McKillian. What are the chances of Noel McKillian getting his hand raised right in Saudi Arabia in this fight on the zone with the champion, Badou Jack? What's the chance of him winning a close decision?
Yeah, we'll see how they chime in here.
There's the right hand you were talking about. Same reason again. Same reason again. You know, going back with his left hand down, the taller man from too close with his left hand low and laying on the right side where the right hand could find him.
To your point earlier, too, and one of the fans commented, he should have been going to the body more, McKillian, to see if he could take the legs away, as you said early
100%.
on, touching about the legs of the older Badou Jack at 41 years of age.
100%.
So it would pay dividends as we get into these late rounds. Some of the
So
fans
true.
are commenting what we were kind of saying earlier, not taking any away from these fighters, obviously, but the last fight should have been the co-main event. Surace and Munguia.
Yes. But it's not. But to the point of defense, I was just trying to watch this.
Yeah.
But, no, I was just kind of reiterating what they're saying, that it's the biggest mistake, I think, of Noel McKillian here is he's allowing it to be a close fight. He's allowing it to be where, if you want to favor the champion, which a lot of times you do, you're letting them do that, where you're allowed it to be, closer than you have to. If you just took more advantage of the things of a 42-year-old, not letting him fight at his pace, not letting him have his way, not letting him rest on the inside, where you don't impose your physicality on him, where you allow him to clinch, you allow him to do that, to hit you shots like that. The referee didn't warn Badou Jack for the punch. He warned McKillian. That's interesting. That might tell you who's going to win this fight if it's close. That might be a giveaway. That might be a little hint. How about you fans? You think so? You think so, guys? Huh?
Yeah, it's for me I'm with you. I don't think Jack is not going to get this on the scorecard. This is crazy though. We said it earlier, and the fans are saying it as well. The viewers with us.
Right,
3 decisions in a row last night. We had the heavyweights decision tonight. We had another decision, Surace. This will be the 6th decision in a row at the rate this is going. Maybe Canelo bring the fireworks.
He will.
Oh,
that's a reason.
Jack just got buzzed with a big right hand there.
Maybe I'm behind you. I'm at 11 seconds.
No, you were ahead of me. And another one.
Yeah. Not clean, though.
They look clean to me. He just doesn't have that big punching power,
Maybe a
which
little
is
behind the glove. Behind
his
the
record will tell you that, right? Only 12 knockouts in his 27 victories, McKillian.
Yeah. Here's a message to send out our fans. If you're enjoying this with us, if I dare ask you to do us a favor, send out the message to everybody out there. If you're not in already, get in for the Canelo fight, like my son said, right? And here's the reason why. my son made a good point. You've had nothing but decisions the last couple of nights. You might be tired of that. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna guarantee. It's always risky guaranteeing, but I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna say I'm gonna give a guarantee or close to a guarantee as I can that the decision record will be snapped in a Canelo fight. That it be snapped in a Canelo fight. That you will finally get maybe what you've been waiting for and haven't gotten tonight or last night. That big punch, that big moment, that big knockout. Maybe. I think
And
there's a good chance you might get that.
And we'll get into it more later, but will the fight go the distance? No, minus 170, but over under 9.5 rounds, under plus 105.
Yeah. And over is what?
The over is minus 135. The under would be plus 105. Over under 9.5 rounds for the Canelo fight.
So they think it's going to be under.
They think no. Over is minus 135. Under is plus 105.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's at 9.5 rounds. Will the fight go the distance? No, minus 170. Yes, plus 130.
Well, so they're saying the undefeated fighter is going to go the rounds. It's going to be an over fight. It's going to be a decision. Canelo's not going to get a knockout. Basically, I'm making it real basic, but
Yeah.
I know there's props. But put aside the props. Basically, they're saying you got to lay pretty good number if you think this fight's going to go the distance, right?
Oh, forget it. You can't bet Canelo regular, but yeah, they're saying to go the distance is a slight less than 2-1 favorite, but the favorite to go the distance.
Yeah.
We'll get into it more after this fight and hear your preview and breakdown again.
I think there's a good chance. I'll tell you right now. We'll get into it more later. But just to kind of whet the appetite of the fans, I'm getting ready to do. If I'm doing any wagering, you can't bet on Canelo. He's a prohibitive favorite. You can't lay that wood. But if there's any wagers to be made, I'm going with the under. I just think it's a different class of fighter here. And unless Canelo gets old, I don't know. I think the bookies could have it a little wrong. I see Canelo, you're giving him a lot of time to get rid of this guy. And I think that eventually he will. Unless he gets old or, I know Canelo in his older age doesn't throw as much. He's not as busy. He doesn't close the gap as fast. But he counter punches good. He punches good. And he's very accurate with his punches. So this fight speeded up a little bit the last round.
Yeah, the last 2 rounds, you're right. It has heated up a little bit.
It really has. Give credit to Noel McKellian. He's trying. He's trying to grab it. He's trying now. Maybe too little, too late, but he's trying to fight like the younger guy. He's trying to make the older fighter use energy. He's engaging him. He's trying to use his size by engaging him. He's the bigger guy. He's more physical. He's trying to take advantage of that now. Maybe he should have done that earlier, but maybe his lack of experience and confidence didn't let him do it earlier. I understand that. But he's trying to do it now. And I give credit for the old champion, but no, Jack, he's answering the bell. He's engaging right back.
Round 11 championship rounds coming up. Badu's been here before, obviously, many, many times. It's crazy to think that in 2017, I remember that brutal fight he had with Adonis Stevenson for the light heavyweight unification title or WBC belt.
It looks like we've been talking but I felt like McKellian was waking up a little. It looks like that's what's indicated on the scorecards of the guys over there, that McKellian has grabbed the last 3 rounds, like I said, waking up, starting to, be busier with the older fighters, starting to, do what he should do. Just use his youth, use his size, make the older fighter work more, and it seems like it looked like he was doing that. And obviously the people there at ringside are scoring it like he's doing that and has done that and is taking the lead in this fight, which I could see. Close rounds early, I thought Bojack had the edge, but I thought McKellian started out working him a little bit, or at least working more than he had been working more towards what he needed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Right there too, going to the body more, like you were saying earlier, should have been doing.
I could see
Better be
it
strong
being,
in that clinch, though. It's looking
I
a little
know.
weak in that clinch.
I could see it. You're right. In the clinch, I always tell fighters, either tie him up. You don't want him to fight, then make sure you tie him up. Otherwise, work. Do something else. But if you're gonna tie him up, tie him up. Don't handcuff one hand and let him bang you with the other. But that's an art too. There's a lot of things that are an art to this sport that are lost with teachers that don't know how to teach. Tying a guy up properly is an art.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that. It's a good point. I don't think people realize that. You just think, oh, you just tie the guy up. I remember for the training camp in particular, Alex Bozic, when you guys were fighting for the unification versus Arthur Betterbeef, that was something you guys were doing, and I remember watching the proper way to tie him up on the inside.
Yeah, you have to prepare for what your opponent does, and anything that you think he does or he does, and you want to be able to handle whatever it is. You got to prepare for it. You got to train every day. You got to prepare for certain situations. In football, that you prepare for goal line situations, right? You prepare for 2-minute situations. You prepare for 3rd down and long situations, 4th down situations. Same thing, you gotta prepare for all situations in this sport.
Yeah, I thought that was a good round for Jack. Stop the momentum a little bit that McKellen had going.
Yeah, and a bad round for McKellian where he's looking tired. He's looking, not as fresh as the older fighter in some
You're right.
ways.
And with that being said, but it bothers me because I know you wouldn't be allowing this. When a fighter, I know it's a 12th round, puts his arms on the ropes like that. I know you're slapping that glove down.
Yeah, I don't want his elbows showing the other fighter weakness, showing the other fighter that he's tired, because the other fighter's looking across the ring. Believe me, he's peeking, but and showing himself that he's tired. None of that. I don't, and it's not helping you. It's not helping you breathe. It's not helping you get your wind back. It's just showing the body language to yourself and to your opponent you don't want to show. Well, this might come down to this round. I can see this fight the way it's gone being very close, maybe a draw. Really, because I think McKellian pulled close. I think he was a little behind, but I think he pulled closer late by just working more. And like you said, a good point by you. He kind of blew the momentum the last round. And now I think he needs to grab it back and finish strong if he's gonna beat the champion, where the champ is the A side. He's
right.
He's the guy that I think it's fair to say that the house would want to win.
Yeah, there's a good comment before too. We're talking about the clinches. Just one of the viewers chiming in. I think it was Matt saying, these referees a lot of days, they don't allow these guys to fight on the inside. They want to get in there and be too involved and break it up. So maybe guys drill it less. But anyway, we got less than 2 minutes left here.
Let me answer that for Matt. Matt, you always hear me. You need better judges. You hear me talk about this sport that I love and you guys love. You need better judges, obviously, better equipped judges, better trained judges. you need better trainers that can train and teach the fighters too. But you need also better referees that are trained, referees that know how to referee, know how to when to break a guy up, when not to break up a guy, to be in the right position at the right time at all times, not to stop the momentum of a fight. When a fighter has a hand free, let him work. We don't have the referees as trained as they used to be years ago. Not all of them, anyway. Well, here's the last 40 seconds. And the younger guy, the bigger guy, he's just got to out hustle Jack a little bit and out want him, maybe, if you could say such a thing, with a guy who wants it a lot, Jack. But to outwork him, out urging him like he's doing right there. That's what I want to see him do now. There's 20 seconds left. I just want to see him kind of leave it in the ring. You know, as they old timers would say, don't save anything for the locker room. I don't want to see him grabbing. I want to see him working. I want to see him, doing that, shoe shining. All right, he did it.
I think McCallian's going to be kicking himself later. I think he blew a great opportunity tonight and should have did more, to what you were just saying.
Yeah, more earlier.
Came on late.
Yeah, he did. Close fight. McCallian did come on late. Maybe he could have even stole it. I don't know that this fight is stealable.
Right.
I don't know.
Another decision.
Do I hear draw? Or do I hear Bojack very close? Or do I hear upset?
Let's see what the viewers think. I'm seeing some people, Stormy B, saying draw.
Yeah,
We already had one draw tonight. The heavyweights.
I'm with you. There's one of our favorite people, Opataya. We've been with him in Saudi. Tremendous cruiserweight champ. Tremendous person. His father, him.
Huge fan.
Father, son duel. Tremendous human being. Him and his father. Do it the right way.
Yeah.
That cruiserweight division has some real talent at the top. They really do.
Starting with Ja.
Yeah.
Him and Gilberto Ramirez. That would be a fun one to watch.
Yeah. And
those are the
forget,
ones, obviously, with all the belts. And then the fight we're watching right now. Noel McKellen is champion of recess. Badu Jack has the WBC belt.
There's another cruiserweight. I'm not thinking of his name. That is terrific.
A terrific cruiserweight.
Yeah, he's good. I'm trying to think of who it is. It's Jaya. What do you call it? You just mentioned
Yeah, Gilberto Ramirez.
Ramirez, and there's one other. It's skipping my head right now.
I can't think of any.
Yeah.
Guys that are getting older now. Marius Briedis, Dortico's had a belt, the Cubanical Punch. Maybe the fans could remember who you're thinking of.
Yeah. If I had the ratings.
Chris Billiam Smith, somebody asked.
Yeah. Yeah, he just pulled off a huge win. Wasn't that him who just pulled off the huge win in Saudi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think he's that level?
He's strong. He's game. He's experienced.
He lost already to Gilberto Ramirez, 12-round unanimous decision.
Yeah, but I think he got better. He might got better off his last fight. Maybe he's there. I'm not saying he wins there, but he's there. He's a guy that's there. He can punch. He's tough, great chin.
Here we go with the scorecards.
Close. But don't Jack. Yeah. once I heard it close, bud, I knew they were gonna give it to him.
That's what we said. He should be kicking himself. He
Yeah, he
came
will.
on too late.
He will.
They're not going to win the close one, like you said early on in this fight over there, most likely. And one of the cards was a draw, like you said it may be.
We were on top of it, bud. We were considering all the things. I'm not patting ourselves on the back, but I am. But anyway, all the things we were doing, engaging with the fans, having fun, watching a fight together like we're at the bar with the fans, very nice, really a nice thing. Doing all that, and at the same time, keeping our eyes on the ball enough to kind of know what was going on and have a decent idea of what was going to happen. And exactly what we thought was happening happened. Exactly, actually.
Yeah, close fight. Don't give me the rematch, please. I'm okay.
You got to pick the right spots. I love Badojak. His longevity, his class, everything.
Yes.
But at the same time, you gotta really be thoughtful of the fights that you pick at this point, fam. I mean, like, which ones do you pick? Oh, there's our boy Reno. We've seen him go through a metamorphosis. We've seen him. He's our guy. We love him. We saw him develop. We've seen him come a long way. He's now been put as he's the COO of the Ring magazine. Great position for him. Very happy for him. I see the man is he's growing. He's growing right in front of my eyes. He's growing right with feeling it. He deserves it. I'm happy for him. Now he's wearing chains. I knew him when he didn't wear shades. He didn't wear hats. He didn't wear chains. He didn't wear chains, and now he is. It's amazing how people can change. And you know what? As long as it's a good person, a nice person, a person who's been around, who's paid some dues, you know what I say? Good for you.
Yep. Let's get into this one.
Yeah, right there in the locker room.
About it.
I could pick up something right in the locker room for the fans without a punch being thrown, without the bell being rung yet. I could give you a little something. Just what you were seeing with the warm-ups. Skull is a counterpuncher. He's a counterpuncher. He's not a big puncher. You don't have power. He's a counterpuncher. He's going to use his legs. He's going to control the outside. If you can get him to come at you, he can reach a little bit. He can get himself a little bit out ahead in front of the skis where you can catch him. But for the most part, his temperament, his physical being, that he's not a big puncher. He likes to counter what you do, and I think he's going to look to do that. And you see it right there. They were drilling on things that are counter things. Here's the funny thing you also saw. You saw Canelo and his terrific trainer. You saw Reynoso. You saw them. What were they doing? They were keying on counters because Canelo, at this point in his career, is a really good counterpuncher. He's not as busy as he used to be. He's not as aggressive as he used to be, not as fast closing the gaps. He throws less, but in some ways, he's like a fine wine. He got better in certain areas where he places his punches better. He uses jab in a very effective, efficient way. Like I said, he sets traps. He sets up counters really well. He doesn't waste anything. And he's a really solid, good, hard puncher where he's really helped by being experienced now, where he places his punches very, very well, very accurate. Again, not as many, but he makes the ones that he throws count as much as possible. So I just don't see anything Skull can do physically that can be superior to Canelo. Nothing. He doesn't have that kind of physicality, that kind of power, or that kind of explosiveness, or even that kind of speed. Not that Canelo's fast, but he controls range, so you can't use speed on him or outspeed him. He'll step out on you. And then he controls and navigates the front and stabilizes the front with an accurate, hard jab, kind of like a Mike Tyson jab, where Tyson didn't have to throw a lot of jabs, but when he threw it was accurate, it was hard. It made you think. It made you stop. It threw your rhythm off. Canelo throws that kind of hard, accurate jab, like a George Foreman jab that can discombobulate you, that can make you lose your confidence. Again, that can throw your rhythm off. I look for Canelo to control the middle of the ring, a part that Skull has to control. He's not going to control the inside. He's not physical enough. Skull has to control the outside. I think Canelo's not going to let him with his jab, even if he jabs to the chest or to the head. I think Canelo's going to use that jab to stabilize Skull, to keep Skull where he wants him, where he can find him, where he can eventually get to him. I think that Skull is going to try to counterpunch a good counterpuncher. I don't know that he can do that. I don't think that he can do that. And if he can't do that, he's going to get desperate. He's either going to go very defensive and fight to survive on the outside and moving his legs, or he's going to get a little urgent and he's going to force offense by coming in a little reckless. And if he does that, well, then the fight's going to be over. He's going to get caught. I can't see him setting tent in the inside. I can't see him setting up on the inside and working with Canelo. I don't see that. I think I painted a decent picture of what I expect.
Yeah, you did.
Of the fight. And at the end of the day, I think it comes pretty clear. I like Canelo. The only guy that I see really beating him tonight, and I'm taking nothing away from Skull. If Skull comes right and he pulls it off, we've seen upsets. He could be another one. We've seen it. And guys upset because they do what you don't expect, but you haven't seen them do before. Well, you didn't know they were capable of doing it. Maybe he does that. Maybe you get an upset. But I don't see it. I see as the only biggest enemy or opponent tonight of Canelo is the same opponent of any fighter that starts getting older, that has a lot of fights, like 60 fights, and starts having a little bit of miles on the odometer. Father Time is still undefeated. I don't know that he's going to show up tonight. I'm not saying he will, and I don't expect him to. But to me, that's the best shot for Skull.
Yeah, that was a great breakdown. I think you painted a good picture. Not a lot of people are familiar with Skull. I've only seen him once versus Shishkin for the vacant 168 belt that he holds now from the IBF.
I didn't know that he won that fight. I thought it was a very close fight.
And it was supposed to be a mandatory rematch, but now the money and Canelo, Shishkin doesn't get skipped online for the rematch. But you're right. A lot of people felt that way. It was a very close fight.
I thought if you put a gun to my head, I think Shishkin probably won the fight. It was close. But I wouldn't just say that. I wouldn't say Skull won it.
Right.
But he's here. He's here.
Yeah, Canelo's 34. One of our viewers said earlier, had me cracking up. Skull is 32 years, Cuban years.
Oh, so yeah. Like El Duque, the great Yankee pitcher. El Duque, the great winner. He was a winner. Money was on the line, put him in. He was cold as ice. He was a great pitcher. He won World Series with the New York Yankees. And we still don't know how old Mr. El Duque was. My God, there was no papers who knows? Who knows? He came over from Cuba, right, the hard way, which a lot of the great immigrants came from there to have a better life, to take care of their families, to do things that they couldn't do in a communist country. You know, they come over here at great peril and risking their lives. They come over here, and a lot of times they come over where they don't have papers, they don't have certificates, where really you're not sure about their age. So whoever that fan is, I give you credit. You're up to speed, my man. You know what you're talking about. You understand the landscape here. Who knows how old Skull is? He might
No.
be 32 going on 42. I don't know.
Talking about Cuban, Matt threw in something and said, let's the Cuban style, right? Canelo, last time he fought a Cuban fighter was 2014 versus Lara. I thought he might have lost that fight. It was a very close fight long time ago. This is the first time I believe he's fighting a Cuban again. Is the Cuban style we hear so much about? Can you just touch on that? The last time Canelo fought that, he had some problems. Could that be something to it, or was it just the style of
Say that
Lara?
again, bud. I'm sorry. I lost you.
Oh, okay. No, asking that talking about the Cubans, right? Just we're talking about the Cubans, the style. The last time he fought a Cuban fighter was 2014. That was Lara. I thought he might have lost that fight.
Lara, a
Lara
whole
gave
different animal. I can answer it. Whole different. You're comparing oranges and apples. Lara was in the Olympics. I think he was an Olympian. I think he might have won a bronze. I'm not sure. But he was in the Olympics. He was a top amateur. He was on the Cuban national team. I don't know that Skull was ever an Olympian. I don't know that he was ever a national Cuban champion. Yes, he was a Cuban fighter. Yes, he comes from that background, but a different level. Lara was a different level of that Cuban fighter, of the Cuban fighter we're used to seeing when we talk about the great ones, the ones that become champions, the ones that, that are really special. I'm not saying Skull can't be, and he is a champion. I'm not taking that away from him. But Lara, a southpaw, Lara was a defensive whiz. He still is, even at an old age now. He still is. He's still a champion. He still knows the sweet science. It's remarkable. But again, Lara was on a different level of competing and of experience. And Lara had fought better fighters than Skull has. Skull hasn't shown the ability to win at the level that Lara had shown. Is that fair, bud?
Yeah, no, absolutely, that's fair. I think just from people could think from a Cuban stylistic standpoint, right? Is there something maybe to that style? But you just explained
Lara
it.
was
Yeah.
Lara was a great counterpuncher. Skull's an okay counterpuncher. Lara was a higher level counterpuncher. And when Lara couldn't get the counter, he could compensate a little bit and make up offense on the front end with his jab when it wasn't coming on the back end with the counters.
They're getting ready to come out now. They got the fireworks going. They need it. Wake them up. 6 a.m. over there, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, part of the training, part of the preparation for Canelo and for Skull too, but we're talking about Canelo right now, was to go over there early enough, obviously to acclimate, and also just to change your training pattern, where instead of training in the morning or training in the afternoon, I'm sure they did some training early in the morning to prepare their body, to fight at 6 in the morning when normally you're sleeping or you're getting up for road work.
Have you ever had a fight like this where you had to adjust to acclimate to what you're saying?
I'm thinking we've had a lot of fights, bud, and around the world.
Right.
In different time zones. I mean, we have fought in, time zones like Germany, all different places around the world, where we did have to adjust to the time, but never to this degree. No. I mean, this would be tantamount to having really boxing. Normally you have bacon and eggs, you have boxing and eggs. You know what I mean, bud?
Yeah. They're gonna walk out of there and go right to get some breakfast. And it
It's
comes
the,
the
you know,
king.
Canelo Alvarez, the king of pay-per-view, the biggest money maker. Well, no, the heavyweights have made huge money, so you can't say that anymore. But consistently a huge money maker, huge pay-per-view king, known as the face of boxing for some years now. But in that ring that Canelo's heading towards, really, I say what I feel and what I see based on the evidence of it. The other face of boxing is, and in that ring, waiting for him to get in the ring. And that's not Skull. That's the guy who's making all these big fights the last 2 years possible. That's Turkey Al-Sheikh, who has really, really, really put his imprint on the sport, making fights that the fans wanted and the sport, quite frankly, needed, to make it more relevant. That's, I think, Canelo's family. There you see the great Mexican fans. I mean, there's great fans everywhere in all nationalities, all parts of the world. I always say the English are probably the greatest. They have the longest history with the sport, but they're all great. But there's hard to find any that are more passionate also than the Mexicans. They have a great history. Their fighters are so important to them. So important to them. They're heroes. They are heroes. Like Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. I mean, and now there's so many great Mexican fighters in the history of this sport, in their history. But Alvarez is now, the last several years, 60 fights, doing what he's done, the titles, solidifying titles, fighting big fights. He has put himself in that. He has put himself in that company as one of the greats, one of the Mexican greats, and he's still got time to go. He's still got more work to do.
Yeah, talking about the Mexican greats, viewers out there, if you haven't already, go take a look. We just put it up a few days ago. Teddy's top 10 greatest Mexican fighters of all time. He is saving a seat for this man right here, Canelo. I'm cracking
And I'll
up.
tell
Look at
you
that
right
belt.
now.
That belt's bigger than Reno.
Yeah. Be careful, Reno. Don't take it home with him. I'm just kidding.
That's another
I'm kidding. Reno's the
WBC
best.
belt.
There's Turkey Al-Sheikh, the face of boxing, as I spoke.
From the viewers commenting, did you see any inside game to Skull? When we get inside, is he just tying up tonight?
He grabs a lot. He ties up a lot. That's a great question. These fans are the best. They keep me on my toes. You keep me on my toes, bud. You're the best. They're the best. Yeah, he ties up on the inside a lot. He grabs. He's not an inside fighter. I'm not saying he won't try to shuffle a little bit and get out of dodge, but for the most part, he is not looking to make his bacon and eggs on the inside. Well, did I say bacon and eggs? Oh, yes. 6 a.m? Yes. There's the Cuban national anthem. You just heard the Saudi national anthem. A proud man knows what's on the
Question
line.
saying, would you say beating a 23-year-old Canelo for Floyd Mayweather was the diamond of his resume?
How is he saying that question? Is he what?
He's saying beating Canelo when he did. Canelo was 23 at the time. Is that the big name?
No, not really. You
diamond?
could say it. Yes, he took a risk. Floyd took a risk that a lot of people wouldn't have taken. With size, he was undefeated, Canelo. We didn't know how good he was or wasn't, or we just saw that he was undefeated. He was winning. He was a big guy. He was strong, good body puncher. And Floyd took that risk like great fighters do. and he won easy, easier than anyone had ever expected. So yeah, I would say that give credit to Floyd taking that fight at, and taking that risk at the time. But I would also say this: give him credit for taking it because he didn't know. Maybe he did know because he's smarter than us, Floyd. That's what makes him a great fighter. He knew, maybe. But at the end of the day, Canelo was too young. I know he was 23, turned pro 16. He already was in the pros 7 years. I know that. But still, he was not ready. He was not ready for a master. He was not ready for a master who could give a master class. He wasn't fast enough either. His feet weren't fast enough. I get all that. But he just wasn't ready for a master class of the master, Floyd. It was too early for Canelo. I don't know if it ever would have been the right time. But that wasn't the right time. But give credit to Floyd because nobody knew that. They just knew it was a risky fight.
Yeah, and I remember the Mayweather-Corrales fight stands out to me. We dropped him, what, 6, 7 times? But obviously the name Manny Pacquiao, which we touched on it yesterday during the live stream. I still can't believe he's coming out of retirement. I think 45, 46 years old, going to fight for the WBC.
It's dangerous. I get scared. I love Manny Pacquiao. He's given us so much, given the sport so much. He's such a great fighter. Will be a great fighter through the history of the sport, one of the greats. But to be fighting at this age, where he's already shown us that he's diminished, to fight us at this age, where his skills have diminished, to fight guys that are still, vibrant, I just think it's dangerous. What else can I tell you? I'd rather see them walk off in the sunset,
Right.
with the greatness behind them,
Right.
and be applauded.
Yeah.
And not stay too long. We've seen too many fighters, whether it's Ali, whether it's Joe Louis. We've seen too many great fighters stay too long. But
yeah. And one of the viewers chimed in. De La Hoya was another diamond name on that resume. Obviously, they had fought on a Cinco de Mayo weekend. But
yes,
Michael Buffer.
that was his coming out fight. That's a good point. That was the coming out fight for Manny to really be known, to really be recognized, to really come out on that
What were we saying?
stage.
Floyd versus De La Hoya.
Oh, Floyd. I'm sorry. I
on
thought
his
you said
resume.
Manny.
But
No,
going to
Manny.
this fight now with Michael Buffer, I am very impressed with Michael Buffer. In New York last night, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia tonight. Michael Buffer's what, 80 years old?
Over 80. I think he's in his 80s. Yes.
Yeah. He's 80 on the dot.
Yeah. He hasn't missed his he really hasn't missed a beat. He's still got his fastball. And he's still got, more importantly, he's got the pipes.
Talking about the pipes, Jim Lampley, first fight back last night. He came out of retirement for those 3 fights. That was a tough one.
Yeah, it was a tough one, but he's a legendary he's a legendary, what do you call it, commentator, a legendary
Voice of boxing.
Yeah, with HBO. And
Right.
he's the guy that does, you got the color commentator that breaks it down, that tells you what's going on, supposedly at least, gives you the inside, gives you the scoop, what to look for, all of that. And then you got the guy who, calls the fight, I'm trying to think of the formal name.
What, the play-by-play color commentator?
Yeah, the punch, the play-by-play would be for all other sports, and in boxing, it's the punch. What is it? Punch by instead of play-by-play, it's the there's a word, there's a term. Instead of the play-by-play like football, basketball, baseball, in boxing, it's the whatever it is. He did it for years. He's very good at it. You know the trick with those guys, they got to remember what they are. Like a fighter has to remember their ID, buddy. A fighter has to know what they are, what their idea is in the ring.
Yeah.
The guys that are the blow by blow, that's what the name is. The guys that are the blow by blow in boxing, they got to remember as they get older and they get accomplished that they're not color commentators. They got to remember to stay in their lane, that they are blow by blow. They set the stage for the color guy to tell you what is happening. And that's important. Just like it's important for a fighter to know his identity. And Canelo now, he really knows his identity. I mean, he's not the guy who's going to out-hustle you as much. He's not going to be as busy. He's not going to be necessarily as aggressive or as quick to close a gap. He's going to counterpunch. He's going to pick spots. He's going to use his jab. I mean, he is going to be a guy that tries to take you apart piece by piece. A guy that I give him credit. He uses his experience now to be good at the areas that he needs to be good at now, where he doesn't try to be good at the other areas. He doesn't try to just outwork you. He looks to outscore you. He looks to place punches in an accurate way, as I said earlier. He's going to have to deal. I think his biggest challenge early is going to be closing the gap or getting Skull to come to him to close the gap for him, but not to allow Skull to do his best work with his legs and his jab on the outside, to try to take that away from Skull, discourage him, take away that outside game. And the best way to do that for me is what I bragged about with Canelo earlier, how good his jab is, how hard it is, how accurate it is, how straight it is. I'm looking for that jab. And I'm looking for face. You know, Canelo was experienced. If this guy does look to step out on him and make him reach and counterpunch, what do you want to do if you're Canelo? You want to feint him. Give him a little feint. Make him move prematurely. Make him show his hand. If he's looking to step out, feint him, so you don't reach in. This way, when he steps out, now you know where to go. Now you can fill the gap the right way. If he throws a counter, feint him. Get the counter to come too soon. Then you can counter the counter. Canelo's a smart fighter. Experienced, smart, places his punches well. Good puncher. Again, he doesn't waste a damn thing. The fighters had the fans out there that had a grandma or a mom that used to tell them they couldn't leave the table until they finished everything on their plate. Well, those grandmas would have loved Canelo because he doesn't really leave anything on his plate. He doesn't waste. He wasted that little bit of a looping right hand, but he doesn't waste much. Even that, I don't think that was a waste. I think that was to see how Skull would react to it. Would he pull back straight? Would he pull off to the side? Would he punch? And then he puts it in his computer, and the next time, see how he faked it again? The next time, he might fake that punch and remember the way that Skull reacted, where he went, and then be there with him with a fight-ending punch. That's what Canelo can do. And by the way, Skull will switch righty and lefty. But Skull will not fight a physical fight.
You could see it's not his mental makeup right away.
No, it's not his temperament. And physically, you don't match it. He's looking to box. He's looking to be fast. He's looking to counterpunch. He's looking to get out of a dodge. He's looking to make you make mistakes and then punch. He's looking to be as safe and smart as he can and cautious and try to find a way to create offense in the safest way he can. Switching lefty for a second. We've been on the air a long time, but I hope the fans are enjoying it. We've been here with them 3 hours or somewhere like that.
Yeah, we can a lot of fans do, I think, appreciate it, and a lot of fans are still more coming in, joining us, leaving some comments. It seems like a lot of people think Canelo might get the knockout tonight.
I do. I would agree. I'm going to say, I think I said it already a little bit, but I'll jump on that to emphasize it a little bit. I said earlier, with the proposition bet out there, obviously you can't bet Canelo to win straight up because you got to lay too much. With the proposition bet, I like the under. I would like to take Canelo. What will you get, Bud, if you took Canelo right now by knockout?
Right now, I'll look it up, but heading into the fight before that first round, minus 190 Canelo by knockout. I mean, he's a massive favorite. You're not getting anything plus on Canelo.
Well, if it goes some rounds,
Actually, by decision, Canelo, you would get plus 140.
All right, I get it. I'm thinking Canelo gets to Skull before the night ends. That he gets a spot where he can land the. I'll pick the punch where he could start to land the jab, which I think Skull could be hit with, and then the right hand behind it. Of course, the forte of Canelo, the fans are probably saying, Teddy, the forte is his left hook to the body, to the head. Yeah. But don't forget, he knocked out Amir Khan, who I know was smaller. I get it. But he knocked out Amir Khan with a beautifully placed counter right hand, straight right hand, that beat Khan to the mark. Don't forget that. But if you can touch someone with the jab, it's not long before you can touch them. Here's the same thing as last night. It says, are you still watching this?
Yeah, you're there.
Yes, I am.
You're on it. Look at those reflexes, cat-like.
So,
who'd you give the first round to? I know it wasn't a lot of action.
The referee. I don't know. I mean,
it's not Phil Simms though. I'm a little upset.
You can make it. You can make an argument that right now, even though nobody's landing, the Skull's doing more. He's doing more. He's jabbing. Canelo's pressing, but he hasn't landed. He's not effective yet. He got tied up there. As I said, Skull not an inside fighter. His temperament is to box, and that's not going to change. His temperament is to box, to play it safe, to use his legs, to control the outside, to live on the outside, control the geography at a distance. He's getting a little cocky now. He's feeling his oats. 2 rounds in, he's feeling good right now, Skull, which is good if you don't get cocky. If he gets cocky, then it could end quick too. But Canelo doesn't care. He's seen all that. Canelo wants to gradually close the gap without giving anything up, without giving opportunities to counter to the counterpuncher. I think Canelo right now needs to start jabbing, at least to the chest, to stabilize Skull a little bit, so Skull doesn't feel so confident on the outside. Just so Skull feels a little pressure. So Skull doesn't pick spots like he is, even though he's not landing. Use the jab of your Canelo. Double it up, step in, but use the jab to the chest. I think that Reynoso's going to have to start telling him that.
Yeah.
In the corner. And I think Canelo's starting to do it. Start to use that jab. Close the gap with the jab. Double it up. If a guy has range on you, you can't throw single jabs. You got to move in, but 2 jabs will close the gap. 1 jab will leave you short for a counter. So you want to double the jab. Maybe feint him a little bit, make him show where he's going first, and then double the jab, close the gap of your Canelo. And then the key for me, besides the jab, start going to the body. Because I'll tell you right now, 2 rounds into the fight, okay? I did my homework anyway. I watched a little bit. Skull can't win this fight without his legs. He can't win this fight without his jab and without his legs. And the jab can only be productive with the legs. He can't jab and come forward. He can't jab and stand in front of you. He's got a couple and partnership to jab with the legs. You take away his legs, Skull got a big problem. A big problem. So for me, Reynoso's fight plan with Canelo has to be close the gap with the jab and start taking air out of those tires like that left hook.
Left hook,
Yeah. Start. I wouldn't be surprised if he stopped him to the body, but start closing the gap with the jab, touching the body, taking his legs away, and not only physically starting to do damage to him, psychologically start to make him doubt himself. Start to make him feel that he stepped up too far tonight, that he doesn't belong. Because he has never been in a fight yet to tell him that he belongs on this level. He hasn't been. He might want to believe he is, but you don't know till you know, until you've done it. And that's one of the things that makes it tough for a guy stepping up with a great fighter to a new level, trying to win at that level, that he has questions that have to be answered that the champion already answered a long time ago in his career. And the question for Skull, do I belong on this level? And Canelo's job right now is start to tell him no. Start to make him think about that and make him doubt that he's ready. You know, start to sow the seeds of doubt into this less experienced fighter. And Canelo's really not doing enough of it yet. Third round, all right, Canelo's not a fast starter. But I think that he's allowing this guy maybe to gain a little confidence. I'd like to see definitely about now, the next round, for Canelo to step it up a little with the jab. Don't get reckless with aggression into the southpaw, but start to feint, make him show his hands, control him with the feints, and use the jab to keep him from, controlling the outside, to keep him from feeling good, to keep him from pot-shotting, keep him from having hope, from gaining confidence. The jab will do that for Canelo. And he's not using the jab. That's one thing I'm a little surprised, that Canelo still looks like he's still trying to figure the guy out.
What do you think of the way he's going about trying to cut off the ring right now?
Yeah, well, Canelo never had the fastest feet, but I mean, he hasn't really gotten into anything yet, Canelo. He hasn't gotten into closing the gap in front, and he hasn't gotten into really cutting the ring down either. There's one of the guys that beat Canelo. There's only a few.
Yeah. The king right now at 175. Stabivo.
Yeah, great fighter, people. Great technician and a warrior. Guy that mentally is tough. You can't beat Beterbiev if you're not mentally tough. You got to be more than technically good. You got to be mentally tough, mentally deep and strong. And Bevo is that and was that. And that's what allowed him to, deal with Beterbiev.
There's some close rounds here, not a whole lot of action. I know we're commentating.
I think Skull could be ahead.
Right? I was just going to say, he won that last round, did he not?
Yeah. You have to give it to him unless you just came here with, only one name written on the scorecard.
This looks like besides the fact I'm scared another potential stylistic matchup for a stinker and a decision like all the fights yesterday, but this does look like a stylistic, I don't want to say nightmare, but this is a little bit of a problem, this guy's Skull, no?
Well, he's letting us, I'm going to take it deeper. Yes and no. Yes, if you let him be that. Right now, Canelo, the way he's going about his business, he's letting it be a problem and a potential nightmare. But he doesn't have to let it be. In other words, I'm not convinced that his style has to be a nightmare no matter what. Because if Canelo does the things he should do, then I'm not convinced that this style of Skull is capable of fighting the fight that he has to fight all night long to win this fight over Canelo. But Canelo's really giving him what he needs. You know, he's giving him the land, kind of he's giving him the ability, the environment, if you will, to fight the kind of fight that he needs to fight. That Skull's only chance to win is to fight this fight. And Canelo right now is just, I'm a little confused by it and a little bit thrown off by it. But right now, Canelo, I know he's being patient and all that, and he's confident, but he's given him the best chance to gain confidence, to get better as the fight goes on, which is what you don't want to let a fighter that's never been on the stage do. You don't want him to gain confidence as the fight goes on. And again, he's just given him the platform to fight the kind of fight that gives him the best chance to pull off an upset by not doing the things that you do to negate this style. Canelo knows what those things are. We know what those things are, but he's not doing them. You jab. You take away that guy's jab. Yeah, he needs the jab. But you take the jab away. You negate his jab. You negate his ability to pot shot, to do what he's doing right now. You stabilize him. You slow him down. You disrupt his rhythm with your jab. And he's not doing that. Even if you jab to the body. And you said about cutting the ring down, bud. To your point, he's cutting it down. He moves with him. He moves parallel with him. But he's not doing it with any passion. He's not doing it with any urgency. He's not putting the final part with it. You move lateral with him. You keep the guy in front. And then you close. You shrink the ring. You move lateral. And then you close. He's not doing that. He's moving with him to keep him in front of him, which is the first part of cutting the ring down. But then he's not closing. He's not fighting with any fire, with any urgency right now.
Who did Skull win that round too?
I think so.
Canelo was minus 10,000 live a second ago. He's now down to minus 3,000. I feel like, we've been saying, Skull's winning this fight. But Canelo, to your point, what you were saying, bud, I mean, I know it's early there. We talked about that a lot. He does look like he came out of sleep. He's got to wake up. And cutting off the ring, to me, he looks flat-footed.
He either looks sleepy, to your point, and I hate to say this, well, he looks like a guy with no urgency that's made so much money he doesn't have to fight anymore. And I'm not saying that because he's a Mexican fighter. He's proud.
Nice uppercut,
he's proud. You know, yeah, real nice. He's proud. He's proud of that Mexican heritage. He's proud to be a Mexican champion that he represents the Mexican people. All of that is part of Canelo. But right now he's fighting like a guy like, look, even here, like
getting frustrated by the movement.
Like, oh, you're going to move, then I'm not, you're not going to fight my fight. Of course he's not going to fight your fight. I mean, he'd be stupid if he did. Oh, well, then I'm why bother? Then I'm like, again, he's fighting like a guy that just isn't as urgent as obviously you need to be when you're in that ring, or as he used to be. And like, it's not as important. It's not as urgent. I'll use that word again and again, as long as I see it. And he's frustrated a little bit, but I'm frustrated and confused. And I usually don't get that way in boxing. But I am, because I'm a little confused that Canelo, he's seen this before. It's not the first time he's seen a guy move. I'm confused that he didn't come here prepared to do what you need to do with this.
You're right.
Which, again, jab to his chest, slow down his movement. Do that. Do that.
Yeah. No,
and
you're
then
right.
when you do that, close the gap and go to the body. That's all. It's not that complicated.
You touched on it earlier. It could be Father Time. It could be the start. It could be a lot of things of why he's not in the rhythm. But with those Billy Joe Saunders, the Cal Plant, other guys that move and try to box, he was doing that, and then he breaks him down later. He's not doing that.
No, and he's not.
Losing this round too. He's doing nothing.
And he's not putting money in the bank. With those guys,
But Skulls needs to be doing more, no, bud? I mean, this goes to the decisions. Skulls gonna wish he did more in these rounds.
yeah, well, he can take advantage of this guy we're seeing. This guy who's not punching, this guy who's hesitating for whatever reason, this guy who's not fighting with urgency or pack. Take advantage of it. Do more. Don't get careless. Don't get reckless and make a mistake, but do a little more when you can in a safe way. And you can in a safe way. But don't do too much. But at the same time, for me, Canelo, simple. You gotta use your jab. Take that motion away on the outside, stabilize them, and get to the body. And you're gonna let this guy get better, get more confident. And you don't want to get to a place where you gotta land one big shot to get this guy where you want him. You don't want to get to that place where the guy is so confident, the guy is now more elusive, the guy is feeling his oats, the guy is, is feeling that he belongs. You don't want him to get to that stage, which he's getting to right now. He becomes a harder guy to find then. He's easier to find early.
The viewers agreeing with you. There's no urgency in Canelo right now. Man, Calvin Gregory just said that.
Look at that uppercut. That was a beautiful uppercut.
That was.
And simple. He split the guard. Canelo walking in, peekaboo style. The hands up.
Right.
He's not moving his head, and he leaves himself available to the uppercut. Now, if he came in behind the jab, people might say, Teddy, how could he avoid that? If he came in behind the jab, that uppercut never would have came. It's that simple.
Right now, I know we talked about the scorecards and all of that, which could be a battle for Skull in itself, but plus 1,700 on the live. I mean, there you go. Maddie
there it
has
is.
A shutout for Canelo.
They got Canelo 5-0.
There's no way it's 5-0 right now.
There it is.
That was a nice right hand by Skull again.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's embarrassing that they got it 5-0. I really do.
I think this is what the viewers were saying earlier about the Cuban style, not as much as the different animal, Lara, but what you're seeing right now. A little unorthodox, unconventional, the movement.
I think Canelo still could get to him, but he's got to get going. You can't get to him if you don't try to get to him. And, again, the jab and that. Jab, close the gap, go to the body. The only thing I would add to that, when you get there, stay there. Don't just be one and done. And again, you just have to think Reynoso and him, part of their plan, but you know what you're fighting, right? You got to know what you're fighting. You watch tape like I did. The guys could have, how did I break it down? I said the guys could have used his legs. You have to be ready to go to the body.
Yeah. I mean.
Now, don't get me wrong, but Canelo's placing some shots here that are clean to the body and spots. And Skull's he landed a beautiful uppercut the round before, and he landed some jabs there, but he's not landing a lot of clean punches. Nobody is. Right. But at least he's moving his hands. At least in some way, he's doing something with ring generalship. I know that you're going to counter what I just said by saying, well, ring generalship is being aggressive too. Yeah, if you're doing something with it, if you're effective with it, at least when Skull is moving his ring generalship, he's pot shotting. He's firing every once in a while. He's doing something with it. For the most part, Canelo's ring generalship is naked. It's ring generalship with aggression that's naked, without any punches with it. And that, to me, doesn't really get you ahead on the scorecards.
All right. Well, I don't know. You could be up
I don't know.
5-0 when the rounds are this close to your point where neither guy's doing anything. So how do you give every single close round of no action to the same guy?
Because he's Canelo.
I know how, but yeah.
See, that's something that you're right about, bud. You see the way that Skull used his abilities, legs, his eyes to make Canelo miss that big right hand to the body? That was nice. That was elusive. That was the sweet science. He made him miss. He didn't count him. He had a perfect opportunity there without risking himself, without getting in danger. He had a perfect opportunity right there when Canelo overextended himself with the right hand to the body and missed. Skull should have came back and countered with 3 or 4 punches. And he didn't. He didn't. And that's where he's going to be kicking himself in the backside, to your point, if he loses this fight. That he didn't do more when he could have did more.
I'm not scoring it either, but I feel like Skull's in the lead right now. That's just me.
I do too. But I also understand it's a pro fight. The criterion has something to do with pressure. It has something to do with harder punch. Well, it's got a lot to do with hard, clean punches. Nobody's landed a lot of them. But that's the problem. Nobody's landed a lot of them. So do you give Canelo for the couple he landed to the body? He hasn't landed anything else to the head. He hasn't used his jab enough. I think it's hard. As much as I understand how this business works, it's hard for me to see that Canelo is easily winning. Right. I understand the other guy is not fighting the fan-friendly fight.
Right.
But how many times have we seen fighters win titles and beat better fighters or win fights when they were underdogs and they didn't fight the style of the champion or the style of the favorite? They didn't fight an aggressive fight. They won the fight because they fought a smart fight, because they fought a boxing fight, because they fought a fight that made sense to fight. Yeah, they didn't fight the fight that, you're going to mark down as a fight of the year or fight that, you're going to be excited you watched. But they fought the right fight. You got to say one thing. He's fighting the right fight for him to have a chance, and that's Skull. And again, Canelo threw there, but then he stopped. And I'm a little surprised. There's a little more fat and width on the power punches of Canelo than normal. He's throwing wider punches a little bit more than usual. That was a nice left hook to the body. But you know what happened? He pulled back and he got hit with the right hand. He threw a nice left hook to the body, but then he exposed himself afterwards. He didn't put defense with that offense.
I feel like we're watching the Haney Ramirez fight almost all over again from last night.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of enthusiasm in the air or motivation or whatever you want to call it. There hasn't been a lot of juice in these fights we've been watching.
I know he's got a long way to go, and this could be in question here for Canelo, but are we getting a little preview?
You see that? He tried to close the gap. He got caught.
Yeah,
and he shook his head. He got caught trying to close the gap, and then he shook his head. Now, you're going to tell me that doesn't get computed, that doesn't get counted, that doesn't get calculated as when you calculate who wins this round? You're going to tell me that doesn't matter? Come on. It's got to matter. Even though the guy's running, he's moving, he's doing what that a lot of fans don't call boxing. They call it surviving. All right. But if the other guy's not doing anything effective offensively to take that away from him and make him, force him to do something else, I don't know how you just blindly give him too many rounds. I guess it's because, besides that he's Canelo, it's because they're going to justify it by saying the other guy's not fighting. He's running. He's not trying to win. But how many fighters, I'll go back again, have we seen that fight employ that kind of style, you know, where they're very defensive. They do fight rounds to survive, but they mix in enough offense where the other guy is not doing much. They mix in enough offense to be able to make that effective, that kind of strategy. And to maybe frustrate their opponent. You saw the left hook to the body by Canelo there. Good left hook to the body. That right hand by Skull really didn't land that clean.
I want to see Skull do more, though. You see, Mannix has it up 5 points for Canelo. He's only gave the last round to Skull. I disagree with that.
You have to give him the last round, I guess, on that one punch.
I agree with that, but I disagree with, having it that wide.
He's making him miss, but he's not making him pay. That's what's hurting Skull. To your point was he could do more, right, bud?
Yeah.
Your point is well taken right now. He's making a miss. Cus D'Amato would go nuts. He's saying he's doing the hard part, but not the easy part, not the fun part.
Right.
He's doing the hard part, the science of making a miss, but he's not doing the fun part of hitting the guy. And he's not mixing the two things together. And he's going to pay a price for that. Again, he's doing a good job of, some people are going to say running, surviving, all of that. But he's doing also, you got to give him some credit for doing a good defensive job, but he's got to match it on the back end. When you make a miss, you got to make him pay a little bit. You got to. But Canelo, again, he's got to do something. He's got to use his jab. He's got to close the gap. He's got to move his hands. I mean, I don't want him throwing wild punches with a counter puncher, but God almighty, you're a great fighter. You're a top fighter. You know what to do. Do that. Use your jab. Close the gap with two jabs. Go to the body. Don't go to the body with just the right hand. Put a left hook with it. Or maybe go to the body with the right hand and then switch to the left hook to the head. I think it's time for that. I think that might work. Or how about go to the body with the right hand, knowing that you're going to drive him out, knowing he's going to use his legs to escape, and then step with him with a left hook. Step with him, knowing he's going to step away, and catch him stepping away. Throw the punch where he's going to be, knowing he's going to step away with his hands down. See, what I would like to see is step to your right, Canelo, throw right hand to the body, force him to move to your left, and then simultaneously step to your left and just throw a left hook. Just step to your left and throw a left hook. And guess what? Mr. Skull's going to walk right into it. You're going to move him into it. That's what great fighters do. That's the sweet science.
I don't think it's used enough in boxing, the even round, the 10-10 round. But there could be some of that tonight. That round right there, nobody did anything. Neither guy. They're
right here, bud. But you're right. You're right. What I mean, and still, Skull threw more punches. He didn't throw any that landed. So, but he threw. See, the problem with Skull in his mind, he didn't know if he part of his winning was to survive. He wanted to win, but he also wanted to make sure that to win, he knew that he had to escape getting hit. He knew that he had to be here at the end of the fight to win. He knew he had to survive. And I think that he's getting confused right now. I get it. I could understand it. He looks bored. Crawford, he looks bored.
Or
he
nervous.
looks bored. He might look nervous too.
Yeah,
the same way Haney looked nervous last night watching a payday go out the window when Ryan Garcia was losing. Maybe.
And maybe Canelo fans are a little more nervous for the Crawford fight, seeing the way he's struggling here with the movement, right? And Crawford's not going to let him fight on the inside, just like Skull. He's going to look to tie up.
Crawford definitely, if Canelo wins this, Crawford's got to feel a lot better about his chances. And I bet you the line changes pre-fight if Canelo continues looking like this before the Crawford fight. But the point I was making before, Bud, was this, that I bet you in the mind, because a lot of times the fighters don't know if they're winning or losing. They just know that they're doing what they want. He's complaining about a low blow, and the referee's warning him. But a lot of times, a fighter in a fight might think they're winning when we can see they're not. But you know why they think? Because they're doing what they wanted to do. Like right now, he's still there. He's surviving. He's making the big shots miss. He hasn't been touched, really. He hasn't been hurt. And part of his fight plan was to do that. And he's doing it. In his mind, he's winning. And that's dangerous because that's where the corner has to compliment that. The corner has to help him and say, son, you're doing great with the defense. And you're doing what we wanted. You're being elusive. But you got to start to do what you're doing now. You got to start to punch more in between. Stick to your game as far as being smart and don't get stupid or careless. But when you make a miss, you got to come back and punch. You can do it. You have to. You can't just get intoxicated with the part of surviving, the part of not getting hit a big punch. You have to understand you're in there with an iconic name on top of it. You have to understand that you have to do that, what he just did there. You have to do more of that. If you just do the survival part, you're going to lose this fight. Whether they rob you, whatever you want to call it, you ain't going to get what you came here to get. And I guarantee you, it's going to be hard to give that message to Skull. It really is. I bet you in his mind, he's winning. I bet you he's winning. He can't see the scorecards. There's no open scoring. Maybe someday there will. Some fights there is. But there's no open scoring. He can only go by what he thinks. And I guarantee you, he thinks, I bet you he thinks he's winning.
Did he watch the Triple G Canelo 1 fight or 2?
Yeah.
Or the Lara fight, his country mate, which was a very close fight?
Yeah, and quite frankly, he's not doing nearly as much as those guys did.
He's blowing it, Skull. He's doing enough to be able to say what he wants to say later, but he's blowing it right now.
Yeah, you know what he's doing right now,
Just
Bud?
slapped the heck out of him.
Yeah, you know what he's doing right now, Bud? I think, at least in my, the way I would put it, he's almost doing what, and of course, the guy I'm going to mention was a much better, much more accomplished fighter. He was a real good fighter and a champion at different weight classes, a hell of a fighter. But he's doing a little bit in a different situation. But he's doing a little bit of what De La Hoya did with Trinidad.
Yep.
He's blowing it. He's taking the last 3 rounds. The only thing is he's doing it for the whole fight. But Trinidad fight, De La Hoya took the last 3 rounds thinking he was way ahead, and he just ran to survive, thinking that he was being smart, thinking he had it in the bag, thinking that it was the right thing or the smart thing to do. And it wasn't. He blew the fight. He blew a fight that he was winning. And if he loses this fight, Skull, you know what I'm going to say if it keeps going this way? I'm going to say from a technical standpoint, he, in his mind, can have an argument that he won the fight in a technical standpoint. But in reality, he lost the right to complain. He fights this fight. He technically might say he did everything he planned to do in the preparation for this fight. But at the end, he is losing by behaving this way, by fighting this way. He will lose the right to complain. Because, If you complain, you feel you have a right to complain. I have a right to complain. I have a right to say this. He will lose the right because of how he behaved and what he didn't do. He just countered with a nice right hand there, but that was nice. That's what he does, but there was nothing behind it.
Most of the viewers are saying they don't like the running. Nobody does.
I
From
get
an
it.
action standpoint, they think that Canelo is winning. It seems like for the most part, a few are saying Skull is ahead, but it seems like most have Canelo in the lead.
Yeah, I understand. For the reason I'm saying. And I'm
Yeah,
gonna agree,
exactly.
I'm gonna agree with the fans. No, whether he's winning or losing is almost the moot point now. It almost is irrelevant. I know that's crazy. It's always relevant, but it's almost irrelevant right now if Canelo is winning or losing, or if Skull is winning or losing. It's irrelevant. It almost doesn't matter because the way that Skull is going about this, the biggest opportunity of his life, the way he's going about it, the way he's behaving, what he's not doing, doesn't give him really the right to feel sorry for, doesn't put him in his position to have any sympathy for him or really to argue for him, to make a case for him. That's it. It really does. It's almost like, you know what? It doesn't matter if Canelo is really winning or not. All that matters is the other guy's not fighting the kind of fight that's deserving of his hand being risen.
I'm gonna throw something random out there, but when you were talking earlier, I think if I was correct, and the viewers could help me out here, when they showed who the judges were tonight, we had a lot of international judges, different countries. I think I saw a flag of Cuba for one of the judges. And I wondered to myself early on, is that Canelo and his team agreeing to that and taking this guy lightly that it ain't going to the scorecards, it doesn't matter? And could that come into play if I'm accurate and one of these judges is from Cuba?
Yeah, it could come into play, but it could also be, here's another side to that. It could be him taking it for granted. It don't matter who the judges put his parents as judges. It don't matter. We're gonna knock him out, right? Yeah, you could have that attitude, right? I'm kidding around a little bit, but yeah, to make the point, yeah, it could go to that extent, right? But it also could be a matter of whether we knock him out or not. It doesn't matter. We ain't losing here. We're not losing a fight here. It could be part that, like almost like, I'm not saying it's in a bag, but almost like, the scorecards are written before the fight starts. And I'm not saying they are. I'm just making a point that when the house fighter is the house fighter. And on top of being a house fighter, in this case, he's the monster of the sport. He's the star of the sport. And when a guy is in that position, you know where the decision's going if it's close. You don't need me to remind you of that. You know that. And I'll tell you what else you know. Turkey Al-Sheikh is not through. He's gone through a lot to make these fights, money, everything else. And he's not only trying to make the fights people want and that are meaningful and all that stuff. And this fight sets up the Crawford fight. But he's also trying to make interesting, exciting fights to have the fans interested and excited. That has not been the case yesterday and today. To go along with trying to change, the trajectory of boxing where you weren't getting the best fights, you were getting one-sided fights. And he's trying to change that trajectory. But part of changing that trajectory is to give them the fights, but that they turn out to be exciting. And for the last year and a half, most of these fights he's put together that have been unification fights and big fights, most of them have been exciting, have been very exciting, like Usyk and Fury and Bivol and Beterbiev. But tonight and yesterday have not been.
Yeah.
And you could see it on the face of Turkey Al-Sheikh right there.
Somebody said it earlier. Ben and Eubank took it all out a week ago.
They sure did. They gave us enough that should satisfy us, I guess, for a long time. But you know how it is. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah. Skull even being too friendly right there. I don't know what Canelo's doing, walking away with his back, but
No, but Skull not only being too friendly, he's complaining too much. You know, if he punched as much as he complained, he might have some rounds here that would help him.
this is another one of these rounds. I mean, so many of these kind of rounds. Not a lot of action. Canelo falling around, trying to cut off the ring.
I wonder who
weighing.
I wonder who the AI judge would have. Seriously, because there's no emotion. I don't know what the criterion is. I don't know what the AI guy does but he's been pretty good. Or
That's a good
it's been
point.
pretty good.
I wonder what he has it as well, and I wonder why they're not showing that tonight. They showed it all night last night.
Maybe they don't want it for some reason. Obviously.
Let's see. Let's see.
Obviously, his corner, obviously, his fighter and his corner think he's winning. Why? Because they're doing what they planned on doing. That was low, but it was on the side, not in the groin area, but it was on the side. That could debilitate a fighter, no doubt about it. But I'm going to tell you again. You see the corner thinking they are winning. Of course, they think they're winning. They're doing what they tried to train to do. They survived into the 12th round. They gave themselves a chance to still be there to win the fight. They have kept this guy off balance. They've negated his offense. And they've done some, in their minds, enough scoring, in their minds, in a smart way, in a necessary way, where I guarantee you they all think they won. And I guarantee you it's not put on, it's not bravado, that they really do think they won. I also guarantee you they might have a rude awakening coming. But again, I think there's rounds that Skull won. I just think that there were plenty of rounds where it's almost like he didn't earn the right to really give him, I hate to say give him the rounds, but it's like, again, if he loses this fight, he definitely lost the right to complain because he could have done more, to what my son said 7 rounds ago. You know, it's like I used to make the analogy when I was calling all the fights on ESPN. You got to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, bud. You can't just make peanut butter sandwiches. You got to put the jelly with the peanut butter to make a good sandwich. All night long, Skull has made peanut butter sandwiches. He has not put the jelly with it. He has made a miss. That's the peanut butter, but he has not put the jelly, which is the punches, with it. He should have done more of this all night. Even this would have been better. Then you could justify, yeah, he's running. Yeah, he's being defensive. But he's also at least mixing some offense. At least taking some chances. Although some of the fans would probably call me on that. Teddy, he took chances tonight? Okay, you're right. He didn't take too many chances. But I'm with you guys. But I tell you what, I'm going to say this one last time. I know we're complaining. I know we're not happy with what the guy didn't do. But haven't we seen fights before similar to this where the guy did get the decision, where you walked away, maybe, maybe not this bad, but where you walked away saying, oh, he boxed good, or he did what he had to do, or whatever. You didn't go crazy. You let him get the fight. We're not going to do that tonight. Why? Because, yeah, he ran a lot. It's very obvious and very easy to see. And he did it with Canelo. And you know what? The fans don't like that. You're going to do that to our guy? You're going to do that to a guy who's a great fighter and a guy that's had all these fights? You're going to do that? Yeah, you're not going to respect the sport? That's what the fans, and that's what Canelo's saying. But that's what the fans are going to say, that you shouldn't have done that. You should have at least tried to win in a better way. And Canelo should have done more. I'm not afraid to say that. I know the fans love him, but I think the fans that do love me, I hope there's a few. If they like me at all, they like me for saying what I believe. No matter where it's going to put me, no matter what side it's going to put me on, people liking or not liking. I'm not trying to make friends. I'm trying to do my job. And Canelo could have done more. Canelo, I don't think anyone could argue that.
Seeing a
Canelo
lot
could
of
have done more.
116, 112 Canelos from the viewers' scorecards out there.
All
No,
right.
you're right. They both could have done more. You saw a little more urgency from Canelo that last round, right? And banging the body. Where was that earlier? But I think Skull blew the chance of a lifetime. There's no way he's getting this on the scorecards.
No way.
And I'm not even saying I think he won it. There was a lot of close rounds. We didn't score it, but he gave it away even with the last round.
Yeah.
But I did feel good about Crawford before tonight. I'm feeling a little bit better about Crawford
Well,
versus.
listen, I picked Crawford to win. I'm not saying this proves it, but I picked Crawford to win that fight when it was made, when nobody gave him a chance. Because I think Crawford is very, 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 very special. I'm not saying Canelo's not. But I'm going to tell you one thing walking away from this that I guarantee you Canelo will never, ever, ever do again. You know what that is, bud?
What's that?
Fight at 6 o'clock in the morning.
No,
Fight at 6 o'clock in the morning, bud, or 5 in the morning. I don't think he's ever doing that again. Would you concur on that?
oh, he's not doing that again, that's for sure. But then again in Saudi, the fights are never too off that. We've been there
That's
for
true.
many.
That's true.
Fury Ngannou started
3, 4 in the
4 a.m.,
morning.
right?
Yeah.
So if you
That's
fight
true.
back in Saudi, you might have to deal with it again. I hope these judges stayed awake and submitted their scorecards. Gave them a little coffee, something.
Now, what I'm about to say, I'm joking. You know it, right, fans? Right, bud? You know I got a little sense of humor. I mess with people a little bit, right? You don't
It's
have to worry about them being asleep, with their scorecards. They wrote them
the
out
scorecard was
they
in
wrote them
already.
out at the hotel
Yeah,
before they got there.
probably.
I'm only kidding.
I might think they may have.
All right, Turkey Ellis Sheik's happy now because you know why he's happy? The fight before the fight is over, because the fight for him is him and Crawford. So this had to get out of the way. So this fight's out of the way. That's over. Now in Turkey Al-Sheikh's mind, I'm sure he's thinking, okay, now we can concentrate on the fight that we want to concentrate on, Crawford and
Here
Canelo.
we go.
And in some ways, this bad performance by Canelo helps because some people are going to think it's a competitive fight they didn't think it was before. So in that way, they might help. Here they are. Wow. I have it a little closer than that. It's Canelo.
That 119, 109 was the guy you were talking about who submitted that card in before the fight. 115, 113 is closer to the way we were saying with close
Yeah,
round.
I agree with that.
116, 112 nails what we just threw out. A lot of the viewers were saying.
That 119, I think, is wrong.
No, it's wrong.
I think it's unforgivable, but it's forgivable because you expect it. Because you just expect it, because that's what they're doing. I'm sorry. And it's not right, but it's what they do. But you know what? Even with that 119 score, you know what I have to say about that, bud? You know what I have to say about that?
What's that?
That Skull can't complain. He put himself in a position where he lost the right to complain. That's all I can say. I think 119 was terrible, but he lost the right to complain.
There's Turkey on the
Let's hear
mic.
this. Let me hear it. I think they're
Bring in what? Terrence Crawford, right? Yep.
Well, that's what it's about. Somebody woke up Crawford. He was taking a nap. He's not. At least Crawford is got over being nervous. Now he's glad. Thank God Canelo won. He's thinking, oh my God. Canelo, Crawford looks big. You notice that?
Yeah, he's bulking up.
He's bulking up. He's a special guy. He's getting ready.
Reno, what does Reno got there?
I don't
Special
know.
one?
Yeah, something. But it's something special. But let me tell you something. Crawford, we saw him early, to your point. He was getting a little nervous, like, is that payday going out the window?
Yeah, no question. Listen, I think 115, 113 was right on point. I'd like to even go back, as brutal as this fight was to watch, and score it, because
Oh, here's the
he didn't do
belt.
anything.
Look at this
that
belt. Beautiful belt.
Oh, he put the gloves on for the belt.
That's the old, yeah, he's something else, this Reno. But let me tell you something. That's the old-fashioned belt that used to really, really, to me, mean something. Back in the 30s, in the
And
20s.
that's the new version of it.
Yeah, but back in the 20s and the 30s, that was a real belt. Not the plastic belts that got made later on that, they still count for what they count. I get it. But this was the belt back then.
I said before, kidding around, that belt's bigger than Reno, but that is the biggest belt I've ever seen. Look at that thing.
You know, something about makes Crawford special. I'm going to tell you right now. You ready, bud? Yeah, he knows the money that's involved here, that it's money that you never have to fight again after you make this money. But that's not what it's about with Crawford. You know what it's about? It's about the challenge. Yeah, the money, but the challenge that he really challenges himself to do something that a lot of people think is undoable. He really likes that challenge. And he really is one of those rare guys that believes he can meet any challenge in the world. That's what makes him great, besides his abilities.
A little taller than Canelo.
Who broke off the stare there?
You kind of did at the same time. I was thinking that
that's the fight before the fight, the psychological little battle before the
fight. A little early though, isn't it, for that?
Yeah, it's never early for me.
Never early. Round one started.
It started, and I'm not even going to say who won it. I'll let the people figure it out.
I think I got it, but yeah, this.
Did the people have fun? Did the people enjoy at least breaking a fight down, conversation during a fight? Listen, we were not given the benefit of, exciting fights, right? We didn't get those, but we got. I think we made the most of them by being able to talk to the fans and being able to speculate and, do things that, again, that you do when you're talking about boxing with friends. You say, okay, I'd like to, why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? It was able to at least give us a chance to have a boxing conversation.
Yeah, they're chiming in as we speak, and I think it was very positive. We had a good amount of views and comments, and I hope everybody did enjoy it. And you guys continue to come, spread the word, like it, let everybody know. We're back on tomorrow. Inoue fight. We're gonna do the Rafael Espinosa.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you right now. Inoue fight. Inoue is getting a knockout. This one I'm gonna get. Inoue is getting a knockout to the body. He is getting a knockout. He's got a guy that knows how to fight. No doubt about it, but he's getting a knockout. He's going to break this string. Yeah, and one other thing to the fans out there, bud. I'm not the matchmaker, so you can't blame me. It's not. You can't blame me and my son for giving these fights that aren't the most exciting fights. It's hard to make chicken salad out of chicken. Well, you guys could fill it in.
Yeah, telling us and thanking you for making it bearable drawing these tough fights.
Oh,
I
thank
think
you. All
our
right,
guy Wes just
you
said
know what
that.
I'm gonna thank them for hanging out with us when it was hard and unbearable, for
And
staying with us.
there's a few out there that is saying we're not going to do it. It's getting late. We've been going long. We're coming back tomorrow. But Teddy, they're on the UFC. There's UFC fights on now. But when you wash up and get ready for bed, maybe you could watch the Figueredo Sanhagen fight. Bo Nickel
Uh,
fighting a real good fight. I think might be on right now. But
all
we're not going to be
right.
going on for the live stream. Appreciate all your hard work, bud. I hope that you
Yeah,
could get some
you know,
rest.
we're crazy enough to do it. We are crazy enough. We are, but I think the fans are crazier than us who expect the fans are perfect for us because they're crazy enough to think that we would do that and expect us to do it and think that there's a chance. But yeah, I think I don't know. I think the boxing was enough, but
Yeah, no, I agree, and I am impressed. You no breaks right
yeah,
through
I
going
know.
a
It
long
wasn't.
time.
I
I'm
know
gonna
there was
let
no.
you get going and get some sleep. I just want to give you final words to say to the viewers and everyone out there.
No, I appreciate you. I can't think of one word. Appreciate. We only do this. I've said it before. I'll say it again. We only do this if you want us to do it, and if you show us you want us to do it, and continue to show us at greater volumes, at greater degrees by bringing your fan by passing the word, and getting more and more people to come and know we're doing this and join us. We're gonna keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing the list, the Mexican list, the English list of greatest fighters, greatest heavyweights, greatest fighters of all time, greatest welterweights, greatest lightweights, greatest. We're going to do all of it. We're going to do all of that. As long as you guys want us to do it, we'll do it. So anyway,
There's a lot of
that's
fans
in
out
your
there.
hands. That's in
Yeah,
your hands.
they're
And
asking us
yeah,
to keep it going. They want you to make this a tradition and giving us a lot of love and a lot of positive comments. So we appreciate you guys and help us keep spreading the word and liking it. And we will do more. Somebody just said, I haven't seen it, but I believe it was T-Bone out there saying that Bo Nickel just got knocked out. Bo Nickel, the
get out of
wrestling
here.
phenom from Penn
Get
State,
out
big
of here.
step up fight tonight. We had talked about it.
Who did you just mentioned it? Who
The
knocked him
Ritter.
out?
Yeah, he just lost to the Ritter, I believe it was. Yeah.
Oh
I'm
my,
not sure what round. I haven't seen anything, but just reading through the comments. So
that's a huge.
for the UFC fans that are asking us to live stream it, again, we're not going to tonight, but we are going to maybe touch on some of it with our podcast that'll air on Tuesday. So make sure you
Yeah.
don't forget and get the recap as well as the Inoue fight from tomorrow night.
Um, I'm almost tempted to switch this TV over to UFC and
I'm almost tempted to sit here and allow the viewers to see your great tech skills.
yeah, I mean I can't guarantee I'm gonna get there.
I appreciate you trying to get it out, but I think we've done enough tonight. It's
All right,
been a
I'll leave
long
it up to
one,
you.
and I'm gonna
Blame
say,
the young one. I leave it up to you, bud. And the final thing I'd say to the fans is,
and Bo Nickel was knocked out in the second round. Go
wow.
ahead, sorry.
No, the last thing I'd say to the fans is, thanks for letting me just be able to do what I've done my whole life, what I've, had a passion for doing for so many years. But doing it at this point in my life to have a chance to do it with my son, that is the nicest part of this. And that's the part of this that I appreciate. And I appreciate you guys for making that possible, that I can do this with my son.
Well, if you want me to change your mind at all, the fight's on regular ESPN, not ESPN Plus. But they're still in the ring. I just put it on just to take a look. Rainer de Ritter, TKO knockout, second round. There's our boy Michael Bisping interviewing him right now.
Um,
How about this? For the UFC fans and asking us out there, you let us know. Leave some comment. What's a really good UFC fight coming up? I know next week Bilal Muhammad's fighting Jack Della Milena, defending Bilal Muhammad's belt. But let us know. Maybe there's a fight, maybe a good striker. And instead of we've been doing all the live stream boxing, maybe we'll schedule one. And we'll listen to you guys and we'll do a UFC one.
I'd be glad to you do your UFC.
Yeah, we'll do that. How about that? So we'll sign off for the night. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for being with us. Again, reminder, join us tomorrow in a way fight and the fight before that, Rafael Espinoza. Thank you, bud. Get some rest.